to episode 34 of the Scottish Announce Table podcast, an MF Extra show on the BS Podcast Network with me, Duckman.
And me, Rowdy Roddy Peeper.
Oh, you did... you son of a bitch. You can't do that again, man.
Yes, I
can't sell that. You know I'm going to... folks, we're off to a rocky start, okay?
Yeah.
Public service announcement. Slight issue with the recording now before we started, so we've already recorded this intro. George is like, I can't, I've ruined that intro, can't do that again, and then he just did this exact same thing in the second recording, which is great, George. It's quality, man.
Consistency.
I'm so fucking excited. Let me make sure everything's recording right. Okay, we're going, yeah. Okay, it's been one of those starts, folks. But we're a minute in, and this is going to be good. We're going to be good tonight, George. I can feel it.
Yes.
Episode 34, folks. Okay, so... full disclosure as well, I've had an edible again. George called me an edible addict on Twitter, folks. Now, I would say connoisseur, maybe... Yeah, no,
aficionado?
That's what I would say. Aficionado, yeah, that kind of shit. Big words. Addict, man, nah, that's too... that cuts deep.
Cuts like a knife.
It makes me think of train spotting and shit, We do have the highest death drug rate in the world, I think, in Scotland at the moment, or at least in Europe. So,
we
top of the league.
are the champions, my friends.
No one shoots heroin like we do. So anyway, Scottish heroin, folks, kicking ass since 1968, unlike our football teams. Speaking of which, George...
Yes.
Speaking of Scotland, freedom, football, all that good shit,
yeah.
You got back to the football at the weekend. How the fuck was that, buddy? Because I know you've... How many days has it been since you've been to see your beloved team play?
It was... By the time Saturday rolled around, Sam, it had been 507 days.
Ooh.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, that's the longest that it has not been... I'm trying to think of the way to word this. Any time that I've missed the football before, it's been my choice, whereas this has been enforced upon me.
Yeah.
And much like, having that first post-lockdown pint, the first game after, being allowed to be back in the stadium, I know, levels, right? It's Dundee. It's not like I'm going to Old Trafford or even Ibrox or Parkhead, but to me...
but it's your Old Trafford, man. It's your Parkhead, you know what I mean?
That's my team, that's my club.
Yeah, fuck yeah.
And it was an emotional experience, to be honest. A good game, to be fair. 4 goals.
I saw the result. Yeah, I saw the result. There was a lot of drama going on, man.
4 goals, injuries early on, red cards, penalties, own goals, the whole shebang, man. It was like I'd never been away. It was great.
Scottish football is back, everyone.
And the 8
fucking mayhem.
The 8 pints before the game also helped. So
unbelievable, Jeff. 8 pints before the game, man. What time did you start drinking?
11:45.
Not bad.
But then I had to be in the ground, so. This is prior to this Freedom Day, and we'll get onto that in a second, right? The fucking stupidity of that is beyond me. So we had to be in the ground for a specific time,
right?
So they could stagger people getting in, so everybody's not just having a free-for-all and there's fucking hundreds of people all going in at the same time. So I think having 8 pints in 2 hours is a remarkable pace to be setting.
It's an Olympic pace, folks.
Nice.
Thank you. I'm on fire tonight, everyone.
It was, mate. Let's be honest. It is Dundee. I know how the season's going to go, but that first game, seeing your hometown boy Charlie Adam playing at the stadium where he wanted to play when he was a kid, just all sorts of things going through your mind at that point, and all the sacrifices everyone's had to make to get us to this point. It was a wonderful thing, man. Wonderful thing.
It's a good thing, man. It's a good thing, and it's the kind of shit you've earned. You know what I mean? Like, it's been a long time coming. You've been following the rules. You've been doing all the shit you're supposed to do. You know what I mean? You've been one of the good guys in terms of pandemic reaction. You haven't been a crazy reactionary or whatever. And tried to do the best for, not just yourself, but everyone around you, and all that kind of stuff.
Much
which
like
is the
you,
fucking attitude that... It's the attitude everybody should have about this kind of stuff, because, I think the thing is when they did announce the lockdown, and then when the initial first lockdown in March or whatever it was, and then when that came, when people actually did that, I think the government were pretty surprised at how many people did comply and wanted to kind of, whether it be through fear or whatever the fuck, who knows, but, did want to help out and comply and stuff. So it was good to see. And, now we're kind of it feels like we're coming to the tail end of it, or who knows, but, things are trending down, or at least starting to settle down a bit after the big bump off the back of the Euros and all that, I think. And I think it helps now that schools are closed and stuff for summer holidays and things. We'll see what happens, who knows. But the vaccination thing is amazing.
Yes.
The figures I was reading today about the amount of people, percentage of the adult population that have, got the vaccine now, and the numbers of, like, the difference in the numbers of, not just numbers of infections, but more importantly, the numbers of people going into hospital with it, is, like, massively reduced. I think it was, like, 1,000 in hospital during, like, the last peak in January, and then, it was like, I don't know, it was like a really small number. It was down, majorly down into, like, double figures and stuff, It's a remarkable thing. So, yeah, man, you earned your fucking good day at the football, and I'm glad it was a good game, And you didn't lose the opener as well, so that's always a plus.
No,
but we start your season.
We do have Celtic on Saturday, and then
easy win, buddy, easy win.
And then we have
those guys are all over the place.
Well, but this is typical Dundee, man. So I know what will happen. Celtic have been garbage since this. Since Bruce, or whatever his name is, has taken charge in the dugout. And
Alf from fucking Home and Away. Yeah.
Flathead, Donald Fisher.
Struth, none of you boys can play football. Put out that cigarette.
Jesus fucking Christ. Yeah.
Griffiths, stop taking pictures of your dick and sending it to little girls. Allegedly.
This is tailed off quite spectacularly.
Him and Gylfi Sigurdsson, best mates on Twitter.
Yeah, that's another story, isn't it?
It is, man. That's another one. That's actually an official footballer to add to the massive. We're going to have to turn it into like an NFL team of pedos, celebrity pedos and pervs. It's going to have to be full Champions League squad of football. It's like 23.
Yeah.
Like a Football Manager. It's like, shit. Who are we going to leave out? Who are we not going to register? Who's not homegrown, You have to make decisions like that. That game's
such a pain in the ass, man. So I've been off work this week, right? And all I have done is sit and play Football Manager. And
I've been big into Football Manager myself recently as well, man. I have to say.
I forgot how addictive that is, and I'm spending like a good 7-8 hours a day playing this fucking game. It's taken over my life.
It's incredible. I mean, that must be one of the most successful game concepts of all time, considering you are just shuffling around a database. I know you get the simmed game and stuff now, and all the, but before all that, you didn't get any of that. All you did was just read the fucking text at the top and celebrate, or have the obligatory heartbreak, and then be like, why the fuck is my guy breaking his pelvis in training? Remember that used to be an injury all the time in the older games? Like, what the fuck?
What in the name of Christ has happened?
Yeah, but the way they've done that, and the design, and how addictive it is just to fucking go through that, like, I will plow through, like, if I start on a season, like, I decided to, I think my most recent save is like a Barcelona save. I've been trying to, like, find dudes to replace, like, Messi, and, selling De Jong to PSG for like 160 million or whatever, and then going around and picking up all the best young players and stuff. And the Barcelona, by the way, if it goes the way, like, I'm about I think I'm in my 4th season now, maybe my 5th. And if they still haven't won the fucking Champions League, right enough, they won the league like every season. But if the youth players they've got coming through at Barcelona, man, if they go the way they go in Football Manager, holy shit! There's like 2 or 3. There's a guy called Ansu Fati, I think is his name.
Yep.
There's Pedri, obviously, who was at Spain for the Euros as well. There's a guy called Mariba, I think is his name, in the middle of midfield. And then there's another one as well, whose name I can't remember. I think it might be Gavi or something like that. But god damn. If that game's accurate, that's the best players in Europe that are coming through at Barcelona. As long as they don't go out of business. Have you seen all that shit?
Yeah, now...
They got like $1 billion in debt.
Let me just pick you up on something here, Sam. Right? So
okay.
You're not playing the game properly here. All right.
There is no going Scum D.
No, but there's no challenge in playing the game with Barcelona or Liverpool.
There's a challenge.
No, there is
not.
A
challenge for sure.
There is for sure. Pick a team that's got fucking nothing, and if you can get those motherfuckers in the Champions League.
I never play any game on hard. Fuck that. I'm a casual player, man. I just want to like have finances and stuff. I don't want to be like, I can't offer this guy. This guy wants £500 a week, and I can only offer him 125. Fuck that. I want to be. I'm running with the big dogs, the high rollers. That's what I do. I'm starting a European Super League, man. That's what I'm doing.
I started, ironically enough, with my team, right, and we have no money, so I managed to employ the Mourinho defence as my tactic, right. Okay. So in the background when you set up instructions for your opposition, I tick all of the players and change everything to the most aggressive style of football. And basically, I am just kicking the shit out of teams, playing for set pieces and winning games. It's brilliant.
Yeah, man. Shithousery at its finest, folks. That's what I like to hear. So Football Manager, you've been playing that, going well. It is addictive as hell. They also said that is one of the most referenced things in divorce cases in the UK, is like, the dude played far too much Football Manager, Yeah. So watch out on that front, George.
Yeah, well, to be fair,
just a heads up.
Already had that discussion, so...
You're at that stage already?
Yeah.
Fuck.
To be fair, I thought, right, at least what I can do is say, tonight at least, we're doing the recording, so I'm not playing Football Manager, so... True.
You're still not spending any time with it, though, so...
Oh, well. Swings and roundabouts, as they say.
Every cloud.
But enough about me, my friend. What's been happening in the edible world of Mr. Duckman?
Not much, buddy. Not much. Family were down for a visit. That was really good. Kids were running about. My auntie is here at the moment. She's come from down south. My mum's sister. She turns 70 at the weekend.
Right. Okay.
And it's ridiculous. You would not think she's 70. She's so active, and it's the same as my mum. I was talking to my brother about it, even my nan, like right towards the end, she was still going as long as she could and stuff. And those two are just like, really energetic, very young attitude and stuff. So she turns 70 at the weekend, and Martin and the kids and Jura are coming down for a surprise visit. Sue doesn't know they're coming, and Sue doesn't know, and she's never seen Neve. She's never met Neve. And I think the last time she saw Owen, he was like 4 or something. So that's going to be a hell of a shock. Man. When that lanky big bastard comes walking in, and he's like taller than her. I'm pretty sure he'll be taller than her. So it should be really fun. And Jura's doing like a big birthday cake thing, and we're doing like an afternoon tea, and there's been talk of like smoked salmon sandwiches and all kinds of posh shit. So we're going to do that the weekend. So looking forward to that. Back in the office as usual. Not much to report there. The canteen was shut yesterday morning.
Devastating.
That nearly sent me back working from home. I was like, fuck that. I'm going back home. The only reason I came back to work was for the canteen. But luckily, everything was sorted out. Other than that, I've been watching the... what were you going to say? Sorry,
I was going to say, how is the poop situation, my friend? The last time we spoke.
The toilet roll's still a pain in the ass. Literally.
Did you take your own?
No, I didn't. No.
Poor fair.
Well, you know what happened was, like, that was the best idea I'd ever heard in my life when I was super high.
Yeah.
And then after we finished recording, or whenever after I started like straightening up a bit and sobering up, I completely forgot. That was the thing that you talked about. Sorry. Because now you mention it, I'm like, oh, that was such a good idea. Why didn't I do that? Yeah, I completely forgot. Sorry, man.
Unacceptable.
Weed's a hell of a drug. You know what I'm saying?
Tree fairy.
Yeah. So, other than that, I have been watching the Olympics. And, just marveling at all the incredible athletes and all the sort of stuff that's been going on, and laughing my ass off at Piers Morgan picking another, black woman to bully in public about their mental health or whatever the fuck.
Yeah.
All that kind of shit. Like, a guy who took 20 seconds of criticism off of his black weatherman about him being a bit of a fucking racist dick with an obsession about Meghan Markle, which is his whole character and personality. Piers's mum did not love him enough, or loved him too much. Or he got dumped by a black girl at some point in his life.
I think that's more than likely what's happened. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just fucked him completely. So he's such a weird dude. So he's been doing all that stuff and seen all those kind of stories and stuff kicking around the Olympics. And Great Britain been doing awesome, getting loads of medals as well. But my favourite Olympic story, George, I'm sure you saw this.
Okay.
Pizza for Italy, Dracula for Romania, and Chernobyl for Ukraine. These were the pictures and captions used by a South Korean broadcaster to depict nations at the opening ceremony of the Tokyo Olympic Games.
Wow. Wow.
Oh my god. MBC has since apologised for offending viewers after complaints the visuals were, quote, offensive and ridiculous. The channel said it wanted to make it easier for viewers to understand the entering countries quickly, but said it was an inexcusable mistake. At a press conference on Monday, the channel's CEO Park Sung-ye apologised, saying MBC had damaged the Olympic values of friendship, solidarity and harmony. I mean,
no shit.
Come on, Park. I don't know. That's a little bit harsh considering how funny this is.
I mean,
but
it's funny. It would be funny if it was a child that was running the television company. Like, that is... Could you imagine the other way around if the Germans had done it, right? And they'd put up just a picture of whatever racial stereotype you want to think about with Koreans.
Yeah.
I'm not going to get into that whole clusterfuck of a mess. Because
fender benders and stuff,
I don't want this podcast to get cancelled. So,
just like loads of maths equations going across the screen.
That's exactly what it is like in Sherlock when you see all the thoughts going around.
Yeah.
That's exactly what's happening here.
Yeah.
That would his mind palace.
Yeah, his mind palace. That's it. Yeah. So Park says, "I bow my head and deeply apologise," he said, adding that NBC would be putting in all their efforts to prevent another accident from happening. So I think that means they fired whoever came up with this roll of footage. A Twitter thread by freelance journalist Ralph Rashid drew wide attention to the unique descriptions where even civil unrest was not off the charts. When Haiti's athletes walked onto the stadium, for instance, an on-screen caption described the country as one with, quote, an unstable political situation due to the assassination of their president. And when the Syrian team entered, a caption read, quote, a civil war has been going on here for 10 years.
Fuck's sake.
One person asked on Twitter, did they literally just pick whatever the first picture was that popped up on Google when they did an image search for the country?
That's basically what it is.
Others started trying to guess what images would be used for different countries. Some, like a piece of salmon for Norway, would have been easy enough to figure out. Others, like Chad, which was described as, quote, the dark heart of Africa.
Whoa.
Could not have been. Oh my god. I'm sure at one point they were like, okay, so Africa. What are we going with? What are we going with? Chains? Is that too on the nose? It's like, are we really going to go and put slavery up here? Oh, come on. But Jesus, the dark heart of Africa. Anyway, NBC has been in trouble for this very same offence before. It was fined after... It was fined after using similar captions and images at the opening ceremony of the 2008 Beijing Olympics. It then referred to Zimbabwe as a country with deadly inflation. Which is accurate at the time. Mm-hmm. So, anyway, that's been my highlight of the Olympics, George.
that's quite... I didn't even know that, man.
Oh, didn't you know that story? Did you not see that at the start of the week, no?
Some horrendous decision-making.
See, I was sitting there and I was thinking, I saw that story, I was like, gotta tell George about that. And then I was like, should we come up with our own ideas for each country? And then I was like, probably not a good idea. No. It's probably a bit of a hand grenade, to be honest.
Yeah, like, I can think of other people in the galaxy who may have a field day with that, but I really don't want to dip my toe in that particular water, my friend.
Okay, we'll back off from that racist pool then, folks.
But what we can do...
Damn it, take these armbands off. I was looking forward to that.
What we can do instead of swimming in these dark waters, my friend, is we can encourage the members of the galaxy to put their suggestions forward, and then it isn't on us.
That's true. I mean, I think that's probably going to have to be via email. I don't know if anyone's wanting to put that on Twitter and Facebook. So mfx.show@gmail.com for your racist scenarios of countries and what images you would use. And you can send them in, and if you want me to say anonymously who it was, I'll say anonymous, whatever. But if you're a proud boy, then I don't think any proud boys listen to this show, to be honest. But if you do, mfx.show@gmail.com, send us in your racist country image stuff.
Yeah.
America, gun,
Wow.
Scotland, heroin needle.
There you go.
Shit like that.
There's two. We've started you off. Come on now.
Yeah. England, Boris Johnson's asshole. Stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean,
be creative.
Don't go sending us pictures of Dominic Cummings, guys. Come on.
Ugh, what a name.
Yeah.
Oh, God. He might as well be called Moist. He's so disgusting. Right, anyway, so we got so much pro wrestling to cover, George. Every time we record a show, I say that, but fuck me. There's been so much news going on. Firings, freakouts, controversies, all the usual stuff.
Yes.
Plus some good wrestling and some interesting shows have been going on, and a lot of tickets getting shifted by a certain company, and all that kind of stuff. So we'll chat about that. But anyway, first things first, MFX Galaxy. our faithful listeners, our friends of the show, you've heard me say at the end of every Scottish Announce Table for like the last, I don't know,
33
10
episodes.
23, fuck you. We'll meet in the middle. The last 18 episodes or so. Even that's a bit high. 15 episodes or so. Damn you, George. You always hear me talking about like Patreon, patreon.com/mfxpodcast, where two awesome people still subscribe and send us money because they probably forgot that they even subscribed. But thank you to those people who do.
Yes.
Patreon.com/mfxpodcast. We are going to be bringing you guys some extra content, some new extra content. So George came up with this idea. George, you want to explain to the galaxy what your bright idea was? Because I think it's fucking awesome.
Well, my bright idea was to pick either an old pay-per-view concept or a specific period in time. So, say, just pick a year from the generator that we use, and just do a series of shows based on that one particular event. So, for example, Saturday night's main event. Sam and I would then get together. We would make shows just specifically about that particular event, and that would be exclusive only on the Patreon feed. So if you want to hear stuff like that, whether it's Saturday night's main event, whether it's Clash of the Champions, whether it's what was the other WCW one, Hog Wild, you want to hear Hog Wild?
You want to hear like
some money,
TV,
bitch.
You want to hear the TV build up to some pay-per-views and stuff, which could carry on into the retro. Yeah, could carry on into the retro reviews. I know a lot of people are interested to hear us like review 2000 WCW pay-per-views and stuff, where the company was just absolute trash, and so was Nitro.
Yeah.
George had the idea of like making this like a series, so like say a 10-episode run where we watch like 10 episodes of Saturday night's main event over a period of time, release an episode each week for you guys on Patreon, and you get that as exclusive content, plus probably some other stuff that we might do. Like I've got some ideas about, I don't know, maybe doing some articles and stuff, and if you get back into the old writing and that kind of thing, which we could put on Patreon as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've got this idea. Hopefully you guys, this sounds interesting, because I know guys love the retro review, Unfortunately, we don't have one tonight. Blame my brother for that, folks, because when he was here visiting, George messaged me and he was like, why don't you ask Mart's Unknown to pick the retro review for us to review? And I was like, alright. And then Mart's and me shared an edible, and we were watching The Expanse, like fucking loads and loads of episodes of The Expanse in a row, just like, oh my god, we're in space. Like at one point he was just like inside the show, I think, where this guy was doing this really in-depth discussion. And oh my god, it was hilarious. But anyway, he picked fucking like, when you watch like a TNA pay-per-view from 2009 or whatever, one of their trash ones, which I thought was a really good idea, George. And maybe something we could do on Patreon if I can find a way to find these fucking shows.
Yes.
Because aside from signing up to Impact Plus, which I'm not doing, I couldn't find them anywhere. There are like certain TNA pay-per-views like on their YouTube feed, but it's all the good ones, and come on.
No, we need the shit.
That's not what we're here for, man. We're here for Aces and Eights. We're here for fucking,
Garrett Bischoff.
We're here for,
Mama
the
Doc.
Check Challenge and all that stuff. Mama Doc, yeah, that era, when Impact was ridiculous.
Yeah.
But we couldn't find it. So then it spent a couple of days family here and all that sort of stuff, and just like shit, ran out of time to fucking pick a retro review and watch it in time for recording tonight. So fuck, we don't have a retro review. Blame Mart's Unknown. But we do have mailbag on the show tonight to wrap up from you guys, which that'd be perfect way to end the show. But anyway, yeah, patreon.com/mfxpodcast. We're going to be doing these series, like 10 episode runs, looking at things like Saturday night's main event or Clash of Champions, the invasion angle, build up, maybe build up to a significant WrestleMania or something. We watch a run of Raws, whatever it might be. And we're going to be recording these and banking them as well, so that they'll be all sort of backed up and ready to go. So when we do officially launch everything on Patreon, you guys will be guaranteed, shows coming out every week. Maybe even depending on how far ahead we can get with stuff. Maybe one at the start of the week, one at the end, who knows, plus our regular Scottish Announce Table coming in the weeks between. So that's the plan, man. We're going to try and pump out some more content like WWE do, because fuck me, they don't make anything good, and yet they make billions. George, we produce so much good stuff and we get nothing. What the fuck? Capitalism, folks.
It's I'm at a loss for words, my friend. Like,
I don't know, man.
It's
terrible.
If I were Fox or the USA Network, I would seriously consider investing in a quite an underground Scottish wrestling podcast, and just give us some of those riddies, my man.
Yeah. Give us the chance to be able to do this.
Yeah.
Without having to work. That would be great. But it'll never happen because it's a hobby, folks. But it's a hobby you guys support and encourage, and you really, you listen, you interact, you send questions.
This is nothing without you.
Yeah, without the Galaxy, man. So if you do want to support us, if you do want to get some extra content, and if some of that stuff sounds great, like I say, patreon.com/mfxpodcast. You can sign up from as little as $1 a month, and you'll get loads of cool stuff. And maybe as well, you can maybe get access to the Scottish Announce Table when we record early, 3PB as well, which we are definitely bringing back.
Woo!
Mark messaged me at the start of the week before my family came down, and I was like, yeah, man, we'll record at the weekend. And then I completely fucking forgot because they were still here for a day. So get in touch with Mark. We're going to do some stuff with him as well, hopefully, if he's still up for extra podcasting, which I'm sure he will be, like Hell on Reels and stuff, maybe coming to patreon.com as well, /MFXpodcast. Hopefully Mark's down for all this. I haven't spoken to him about it. He's always sitting there like, nah, fuck you, man.
Well, to be fair, you've put it out there now, man, so he has to agree.
Yeah, so if it doesn't happen, it's Abrigo's fault. Everyone blame him. So there we go. So we're going to come up with new pricing structure as well. At the moment, it's like, I think it's like $1, $2, $5, $10 or whatever. But we're going to have a little think about that. We're probably going to do like polls and stuff on Patreon where maybe you guys can vote for what we watch.
I don't know about that, man.
Well, we'll see.
No,
we'll see.
Like, see the last time that we've let these fuckers choose in a poll, right?
You're still pissed about
I'm still pissed about the Nasty Boys. That's the real reason we don't have a retro show, because I couldn't trust you fuckers to make the right decision. And then I thought that if there's one man I can trust other than yourself and Mark, it's Martin. And what does Martin do? He puts the shaft square in the ear.
Like, he fucking fumbled the ball,
he,
folks.
Yeah, he
on the 1 yard line.
Yeah, he finkled it, motherfucker, is what he did.
Laces on the outside, motherfucker. Oh my
the laces
God.
were in!
They were in! So that's what's coming to patreon.com/mfxpodcast. So if any of that sounds interesting to you, and you've got a spare $1 kicking around, that you want to chuck our way to help with the hosting costs of the show and all that good shit, then that's the place to do it. Patreon.com/mfxpodcast. And these new sort of little runs of looking at various old shows and stuff, that's what we'll do. And also, if anybody does have access to old Impact pay-per-views, old TNA pay-per-views and shows and stuff, and can, hook a brother up, then let me know,
Tone Cold, I'm looking at you.
On Twitter. Yeah, somebody must know, man. Somebody must have, be able to rip some stuff. Because I don't know. I don't use torrents. I haven't used torrents for fucking years, I just like to be able to stream shit. And the one place that I do go to stream, it doesn't go back very far, So anyway, that's what we're going to do. We'll see how it goes. Hopefully you guys will check it out over on Patreon. Anyway, George, let's get into some fucking wrestling chat. It's been such a ridiculous couple of weeks, right? So much crazy shit going on. But my favourite story of all... God, this is gonna be such a fucking disaster of a thing. Vince McMahon... It's basically the story of his life. Vince McMahon versus the United States of America. Sanity, whatever, This is Vince versus United States of America, folks. Jason Blum of Blumhouse, the new TV company headed up by Chris McCumber, who was the head of the USA Network until restructuring last year, has made a deal with WWE for a scripted television show called The United States of America versus Vince McMahon. The limited series will cover the investigation of Vince McMahon and WWE through the trial in Long Island. This is steroid trial from 1992 through the summer of 2004. George, initial thoughts on this as an idea, because this sounds insane. I mean, I know it will be complete bullshit because it's a WWE thing, but I mean, what a weird thing to pick now to bring as new content,
I'm really dumbfounded, to be honest.
It's so crazy.
I really am. I mean, what is the point of this, Sam?
I don't know. I mean, I'm assuming it's like they want to show like one of Vince's big wins, But
he didn't win. He just wasn't.
It's a fucking total technicality how Vince didn't go to prison for this. It was all to do. I mean, Meltzer's done a big piece about it in The Observer this week, which I've got here. I won't go through all of it in detail because there's a lot of stuff, but there is like quite interesting story about it because the whole deal, as he says, is going to be a WWE version, and from the press release about the series, Phil Mushnick of the New York Post will be the scripted bad guy of the piece.
Of course.
So basically, this is all. If anyone who doesn't know, I mean, everybody that listens to the show knows about this. It's all to do with steroids, which were massive in WWE through the 80s through to 1992, and then again from about 1995 to 2005, 2007, when they started cracking down after the deaths of Eddie Guerrero and Chris Benoit. So there was loads of fucking drugs going on, loads of steroids and stuff, and Vince, at the time, during the 80s, was getting his steroids from a guy called, I think it's Zahorian, is the name of him? Dr. Zahorian. I don't know if you guys have seen that name kicking about. I think that's how you pronounce it.
He sounds like a Futurama bad guy, doesn't he?
He really does.
A Futurama villain.
Does. He sounds like somebody that Zoidberg would have a big issue with,
yes.
you know? Yeah, Dr. Zahorian. So he was this is the fucking quality part about all this, folks. He was a Pennsylvania State Athletic Commission appointed doctor, right? And a steroid dealer. So he was working for the government and was put to their shows in Hershey, Pennsylvania, where they would record TV every 3 weeks, I think it was, in the 80s. All the boys would get together,
yeah.
And he would set up a shop in the locker room and just basically deal all the drugs that they needed, you know, pharmaceutical-wise, you know, mainly the steroids. He would also send steroid packages to Stamford, Connecticut, to Vince McMahon's offices, where Vince would take half the steroid and he would give the other half to Hulk Hogan. And they would take their steroids and get their pump on and make, you know, a fucking crazy wrestling movie that they made together, No Holds Barred.
I thought you were going to make Sweet Passionate Love there.
Well, yeah, probably, you know.
Yeah.
That's probably, you know, didn't want to get too into it. Anyway, yeah, so the government basically got wind of what this Zahorian guy was up to, right? They started looking at him, and he was still obviously coming to the WWE shows and still, you know, giving loads of steroids and stuff. And they got, I think it was a woman called, I think her name was Scales, Prunella Scales or something, Priscilla Scales maybe, who worked for Vince, knew what he was up to, right? And didn't like him and stuff. And was told she didn't want to book him as a doctor, because I think eventually what happened was you could book their own doctor or something. So anyway, there was a chance to get rid of this guy, basically. She tried to get rid of him and was told by Pat Patterson, Chief Jay Strongbow, the boys need their candies. That's the famous quote from the trial. Mm-hmm. You know, the boys need their candies. So he stays. And then what happened, and this is, George, this is the thing about stories like this, you know, is how fucking it can all, like, hinge on the, you know, one thing happening.
Yep.
You know? The fucking, what is it they call that effect?
The butterfly effect,
you know, where,
isn't it?
Yeah, the butterfly effect, yeah.
Yeah.
So, at a Republican Party fundraiser, some guy who used to work for, I think it was maybe still working with Vince or WWE or had some connection, was at some big lawyer do thing, you know, with the Republican Party and stuff, raising money, and spoke to one of the prosecuting type guys who was like, oh, by the way, we're looking at this fucking Zahorian dude, this doctor, and we're going to be, you know, probably bringing an indictment against him for dealing steroids and stuff. And the guy was like, all right, cool. And then he went to Linda McMahon and was like, yo, I've just heard that they're looking at your doctor to bring indictments and stuff. So there's a whole story which will be in this show about, you know, Pat Patterson trying to cover his ass about what had happened and him getting the doctor to, like, he called the doctor at his hospital and then got the doctor to call him back on a payphone and all this sort of stuff, you know, it's like total Sopranos shit, you know, like, I don't want to talk on a line and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, eventually they got Zahorian and in turn went after Vince, and they brought a case against Vince, and there's even, I'll get to the press release, George, because the press release has so much fake shit in it.
That is like one of the most magnificent pieces of written lies I've ever seen.
Dude, like, Meltzer picks it apart, folks. I don't like reading just, like, straight off from the Observer, but it's
just
so
go
great,
for it,
just,
man.
like,
just go.
Talking about this stuff. So we'll get to that in a second with the with this, because it's ridiculous. But they so they went after Vince, and eventually, I mean, there's a whole load of shit in the trial. Hogan, you know, came out in the trial, and so did you know, Rick Rude and the Ultimate Warrior and stuff, and they talked about steroids. It was such a big deal at the time, and Vince was, you know, being accused of basically being a steroid dealer because he was getting the steroids sent to him and then splitting them between him and Hogan. The problem is that I think because they brought the case in New York, but the steroids were always sent to Connecticut or to Pennsylvania, I think it was, to the arena, you know, wherever the fuck it went. They didn't actually have jurisdiction, I think, to prove that he was dealing in New York, where they brought the case. And I think they brought the case there for the publicity.
Yes.
You know, because it was a weird thing. There was a guy who was pretending to be a TV producer who was, like, approaching witnesses and stuff, and he was actually working for Vince's lawyers and stuff. There was all kinds of shit going on, folks. It was a total murky scene, as you would expect, right? Anyway, Vince got off, basically, on a technicality, George, would you say? Fair not a technicality, but, you know, the state couldn't prove their case. The government couldn't prove their case that he was dealing steroids in a place that court had jurisdiction over. I think is my understanding on it.
Yeah, pretty much, and that is as close to a technicality as you can get.
Yeah, it's pretty near. It's pretty near.
It's not that he didn't do it; it's that they couldn't prove he did it in their jurisdiction.
Yeah,
there's more than enough evidence. There's more than enough testimony to prove that man did that. But because of, you've seen it in legal dramas all over the place, you know?
Yeah, it's like what he did in the place he did it wasn't what they were charging him with, basically, folks. But it doesn't mean he didn't do it, because he did fucking
Of course
do it.
he did.
They all said he did it. They all said it.
And in case you
Hogan
need,
said it.
if you've got any doubt at all, look at a picture of Hulk Hogan in 1992, and then look how much smaller he is in 1994. It's not
totally.
Fucking rocket science.
Totally. And then look how big he is in 1998 when he's back on the shit. Right, this press release. Holy shit. Okay.
It's marvellous.
Let me find the fucking... It's quite a long one as well, folks, so bear with me.
Jason and I on Twitter, we were going back and forward about just what a marvellous piece of just fucking bullshit it is,
Yeah. So, Vince McMahon, Kevin Dunn, Blum McCumber, and Jeremy Gold will be the executive producers on the series, which will no doubt have a very WWE slant. No shit, Dave Meltzer. The press release said... The show will delve into WWE during the 1980s, at the time Rupert Murdoch had purchased the New York Post to further his massive infiltration into the US media landscape. Okay. What's it got to do with Vince McMahon? For years, this is still the press release, for years, infamous Post writer Phil Mushnick, no relation to Irv Muchnick, who is often confused with, and that's the idea he's related to Sam Muchnick, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, Sam Muchnick, president of the NWA back in the day, whatever. He hammered WWE in 1992, obviously, hang on, Meltzer, you write like a fucking maniac. Where are we? Hammered WWE chairman and CEO Vince McMahon in his column. Headlines like, legislators give WWE a free pass on roids, and McMahon skips through the cemetery, eventually captured the attention of the FBI and the US Attorney's Office for the Southern District of New York. Meltzer says it was actually the Eastern District, so they got that wrong. I know that's only a little thing, but come on! The nation's most prestigious federal prosecutor's office with a conviction rate of over 96%. They're just building these guys up, like they're coming for Vince with a 96% conviction rate. Will he be the 4%? In 1994, the US government indicted McMahon for allegedly supplying anabolic steroids to WWE talent. McMahon, with his liberty at stake, 2 school-aged children at home, Meltzer. Shane was 24, Stephanie was 17 at the time of the plea bargaining talks.
Yep.
2 school-aged children.
Yep.
Shane was 24.
To be fair, if those motherfuckers are in remedial class, then...
Yeah, if Shane's still in school at 24.
then you need to have a serious fucking look at yourself.
No wonder he just fell off of high things to get his dad's love.
Daddy, love me!
Look at me, Daddy! Boink! God damn it, he's still in school. He's 48. And with the WWE on the brink of bankruptcy, refused to take a plea deal. Ultimately, McMahon stood trial and was acquitted unanimously by a jury of his peers and went on to build a multi-billion-dollar global corporation. Okay. If you're wondering about the accuracy of any of this, folks, Dave Meltzer now picks this apart. So the investigation into McMahon and the WWF started in 1992, with the first aspect of it apparently being a phone call from Anthony Valetti, who handled the investigation, to Muchnick in March 1992, the day after Muchnick wrote an article after a conversation with Vince McMahon, where McMahon told him 2 weeks earlier that he had first fired Mel Phillips 4 years ago because of his relationship with kids. This is all to do with the Ring Boy story, George, that went around. There's a sexual abuse stuff that Vince kind of covered up in that in the early 90s. So anyway, the headlines, McMahon skips through the cemetery, never existed, but that phrase is used in a 2005 story after the death of Eddie Guerrero a generation later. The other phrase, hypocritical legislators give WWE a free pass on roids, was also from the same time period. So the quotes that they said Muchnick was writing about Vince at the time were actually written about WWE and Vince in 2007 or 8 or whatever.
Yeah.
So, whatever. So yeah, Meltzer just basically says, in hindsight, this should never have gone to trial because the government simply didn't have the evidence to tie McMahon into the distribution of steroids within the district. The only possible distribution would have been in Connecticut, with Dr. George Zahorian sending packages to McMahon. He would get the packages, take his share, give the rest to Hogan. So there's an allegation in the trial of distribution to Hogan, but Hogan never directly paid McMahon, so McMahon wasn't legally dealing. It was not made clear whether Zahorian knew at the time those packages he was sending were for both McMahon and Hogan, but Zahorian was aware that he distributed to both and also to Hogan independently as well. So anyway, the attempt to charge Vince with conspiracy to distribute with Zahorian fell flat as there was no evidence of the two were working together, even though McMahon, as a client of Zahorian, had to know his role in distributing steroids in the locker room. And they just basically cover some of the shit that we already talked about. But yeah, this show, George, is going to be... So it's going to be people playing everyone, I take it. Are we finally going to get somebody cast as Vince McMahon? Because we've talked about this for a long time. Like, I know myself, you, me and other people, I'm always like, who do you think would play Vince, like in the movie of his life or whatever? Someone's going to have to now in this, yeah?
Yeah, and the only sort of egomaniac and just all-out clown that I could think of that could play Vince McMahon is Tom Cruise. There's nobody else that could...
Very small Vince McMahon.
Yeah, a very small man, with an even smaller head, just, totally out of his mind. I don't know. I mean, can you cast the Scientology guy, like the actual chief of Scientology in a movie? David Miscavige would be a good shout. I don't know, man. Who's on your radar for playing this very important role in this underdog story?
Well, yeah, this massive underdog story. To be honest, it's always tough because I'd for years always said Nick Nolte. I thought had, the size and the insanity to pull off Vince McMahon.
Nick Nolte from 48 Hours, like that Nick Nolte. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, but with the Vince haircut and in the Vince suit, but just with that same attitude and all that cocaine. I'm pretty sure Nick and Vince probably snorted coke together in the 80s or whatever. When Vince was at Studio 54.
We get JBL to play Vince. I don't know.
JBL is a shout, dude. They might go with JBL. Have you ever seen the TV show Silicon Valley?
Mm-hmm.
So the guy that plays Gavin Belson, is that the name of the character in that? The bad guy?
Yeah, I know who you mean.
Maybe him. And also, just because I've been watching it like ridiculously a lot over the last like couple of days when my brother was here, is the guy who plays Aaron Wright in The Expanse. He's like the bad politician guy in the first couple of seasons of The Expanse, which is the best sci-fi show of all time. Everybody should watch it on Amazon Prime. It's so good. Completely converted my brother. Just like as soon as Owen's off to bed, he's like, let's watch The Expanse. It's like straight away. So good. But the guy that plays Aaron Wright in that, I think could pull off Vince these days as well. Because you got to remember, they're trying to play 80s Vince. Early 90s, mid 90s Vince. So
Vince would be...
They got to be pumped up,
mid-40s ish.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, maybe Cruise is a bit much of a push. I don't know the dude that you were speaking about from The Expanse. I've never seen it, but
yeah,
it's
anyone
tough,
who's
man,
seen
isn't
it will know. It is tough. It's like trying to think of
what lunatic
who's got the size and the kind of stature, and the kind of to be around that age as well. I'm trying to think. I think they should just still use Nick Nolte. Nick Nolte now.
He's a fucking maniac.
Just some crazy dude. I hope they don't go down the route of like Dark Side of the Ring, where it's like just talking heads to camp. What did they call it? Did they call it a scripted show? Hang on, let me check.
I just closed the press release there, mate. Hang on a second.
Yeah, I'll check.
Developers.
Okay, scripted television show. So
to me, that would indicate it's a drama.
Yeah, it doesn't say reality, so it doesn't say documentary.
And this is probably a reflection more of me than this press release, but the way they've titled what the project is, I initially thought it was from the same people that were doing, that did The People versus O.J. Simpson and the assassination of Gianni Versace. I was like, they're two pretty, well-known cases.
What? You know what? Those documentaries are so well-known. They've definitely done that to, cash in on the name recognition. Exactly. That's a total WWE thing to do, Then you look at it and you're like, hang on a minute, this isn't made by these guys, See if there's anything else in this press release. I think that's about it. Mainly Meltzer just going on about the background of the whole thing and the trial and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, it's like if Linda McMahon was not tipped off, the company hires Zahorian who sells drugs to talent at the shows. Vince couldn't even claim a lack of knowledge because he would get his stuff from Zahorian. If Jack Krill isn't tipped off and doesn't tell Linda, the government has a winnable case against McMahon. Without it, they did not. I'm not sure how much of this makes it into the TV series, but is actually the story of the case. No matter how hard the prosecuting attorney in the case pushed that Scales was told to hire Zahorian, or that McMahon presided over a company where anywhere from 75 to 80%, maybe more, which is what Hogan said in testimony, 90%, which is what the Ultimate Warrior said, of the roster were on steroids, and McMahon was fully aware there was nothing that would legally tie him in. So, yeah. There's a bit where Nails went on the stand and said that
that's infamous.
Said that Vince told him to directly get on steroids and stuff, and then basically couldn't prove that. Rick Rude as well. There's another one. Rick Rude, when he came back, he got off the gas to have a kid, and then when he got back in, he was told, get back on the shit because you're a bit skinny for top heel. And then under oath, he was kind of like, don't know, maybe I misunderstood what he said. And then Meltzer says, I know from my own talking to Rude on the subject that he would never say that on record, using the term, you don't shit where you eat, which basically means he was not going to say anything publicly because he believed to be injurious to the business. But yeah, even if Rude has said something different, you don't see it as evidence for a conviction. But yeah, so they're going to go into that show. God damn. Will you be watching, George? It
sounds like the kind of clusterfuck you can't miss, Sam.
Yeah. Someone's going to have to play Hogan. Yeah, they're going to have to get everybody. It's going to be weird.
And the thing is, again, going back and forward, but like I'm sure you did as well, like on the old Twitter machine with people during the week, and Jason was telling me, he's like, it sounds like that episode of The Simpsons where, the life movie of Mr. Burns is made by Mr. Spielbergo. You're like, that's right, exactly what it is. That's
find
totally
me Steven Spielberg, pal. Steven Spielberg's not available. Well, find me his exact Mexican
equivalent.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to be car crash telly, isn't it?
It's going to be totally... I mean, even the press release is just full of fucking errors and, omissions and swapping history around, just to fit what they want to do. So it's going to be bullshit. It's not going to be an accurate portrayal of what the fuck is going on then,
What really astounds me about it, Bud, is, this is all public knowledge, right?
Uh-huh.
So how do they think they can get away with skewing a press release that badly? All they have to do is say... it's about the time that Vince was indicted by the US government. That's all they could have said.
Yeah.
Obviously fluffed it out a little bit, but don't just put fucking lies that people can research. And especially someone like Dave, who covered the trial inside out, basically. He was in court and stuff, wasn't he? So
yeah, he was. He was all over this shit, yeah.
So he's the one
it's
source.
It's kind of classic as well that they're, they're going to be doing this whole deal of going against this reporter,
Of course.
Like setting it up that like
Poor
it's
Vince.
Phil Mushnick's... Yeah, like Phil Mushnick's obsession with Vince, his vendetta is how McMahon saw it, because he's cut from the same cloth as like Trump and Boris Johnson, these people who see criticism as a direct threat, any form of criticism or anything at all, and they just stonewall and they gaslight it and they say it doesn't happen, or they go on the attack and say these people are evil and they're coming after me and it's not fair and blah blah blah, and I never get to tell my side of things and all that shit. Where all Mushnick was doing was writing stories about all the fucking wrestlers who were dying on Vince's watch, and you can go back and forth about how culpable Vince is for that behaviour,
Well, he's basically cultivated the environment to allow that to continue to happen for decades.
True. And he's also created the schedule that required drug intake to be able to handle the travel and the injuries and the workouts and all that sort of stuff and the matches and everything. So, yeah, it will not be an accurate representation of what happened at the time. It'll be some cheesy courtroom shit. I wonder who they get to write this,
Dun, dun, dun. Dun, 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 dun.
That would be sweet.
Dun, dun, dun.
But I don't know. I will watch this though for sure. I wonder where it'll be. It'll probably be on the USA Network or some shit, won't it? Maybe.
I think I was just reading
Netflix
there actually. To be honest, in the press release. Hang on a second. This is the second time I've shut it down. I'll open up again. So, Blumhouse Television, led by McCumber, have made several significant development announcements. Blah 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 blah. They've done a scripted series based on the Battersea Poltergeist BBC project, and they're also working with ITV America. So I would imagine it might be somewhere like Fox or USA or something along that general sort of line.
Yeah, that sounds
where it'll land, but fucking hell, mate.
Or just on the network.
I mean,
on Peacock.
For the love of Christ.
I don't know. It just seems like such a weird thing to bring back now, when Vince is where he is in his life and his age, and where WWE are as a company and a well, as a brand or whatever, as a content creator, not where they are like creatively and TV viewership wise and all that kind of stuff, because obviously they're in the toilet compared to where they were 20 years ago or whatever. But I don't know, it seems like such weird timing to do it now and to put focus on this really sleazy time in Vince's life and career, Like, I would have thought maybe if they're going to do something, I'm surprised they're doing anything about Vince while he's still alive, to be honest,
Do you think that he's dying?
Probably.
And
he is. George, we're all dying,
No, okay, Mr. Philosophy.
Since I was born, I started to decay.
Christ, that's a fucking grim way of looking at things, man.
That was Placebo, I think. I think that was from one of their songs.
Good Dundee Boy, yes.
Yeah.
We did. Yeah, I mean, it's just a weird thing, man. Maybe he wants to put his side of the story across because he knows he's not going to be around much longer, and he doesn't want it to be, in his eyes, misrepresented after he's no longer here to defend himself.
There is a big drive from a lot of people to rewrite history, like as it happens.
But particularly with that man and his company,
Yeah. They've always done that, but it just seems like a weird subject to pick and a weird time to do it,
Be fun to watch, man.
I hope it's fucking garbage.
Me too.
Like, I hope it's like soap opera level acting and writing, so we can just do a thing on Patreon where we just rip it to bits.
Well, there you go. There's another series. Yeah.
There's another series we can do, yeah. I'm already reviewing this before it's even been written,
Yeah.
I think. They've just had the idea greenlit anyway. There we go. The United States of America versus Vince McMahon, folks. Don't sit there and tell me you are not tuning into this. You know what I mean? There's no way you can be listening to this show and not be hyped.
No.
And at least maybe even just, the curiosity of it. Of what the fuck are they going to do with this and how bad is it going to be? It's going to be really bad.
It's like the rubbernecking thing at a car crash, man. And it's like
totally.
You know you shouldn't, but you kind of want to see what's happened.
Yeah, you want to kind of have a look and see how bad is it? Oh, fuck.
Yeah, how bad is this fucker mangled?
Fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh, fuck, it's bad. Oh, his head's off. Oh, fuck. Yeah, so it's going to be like that. We'll see. But we'll see how it goes, folks. Probably not the last time it'll be the United States of America versus Vince McMahon.
No.
Anyway, releases, folks. You can't do a wrestling podcast every 2 weeks without having to come back and talk about more people that WWE have fired, George.
Yes.
This is a strange one.
Very strange.
Bray Wyatt, everybody. The Fiend. So, I don't know, man. It doesn't make a lot of sense because he's like a big merch shifter, apparently. Like, top merch shifter in the company, I think, especially with all those masks and
those
all the
custom
weird shit
titles and stuff.
Yeah, man, yeah. Apparently they sold them at like $850 each, I saw. And people bought that shit, you know what I mean? Like, they loved it. So he's making money for the company, and he's obviously like creative guy and very over. Everything he's done has landed pretty good initially. And then I don't know if it's like a lack of ideas within WWE Creative or if it's just they can't gel with him. The first like Bray Wyatt run as the Wyatt family, when he was like the Southern Preacher, that's some of the best shit I'd ever seen. I loved that character. I loved his performance. I loved the way he lived inside that character. It felt like,
Yeah.
And the promos were awesome, and the style it was all shot in was very different from what they were doing at the time. And it's just another one of these like, fuck, somebody new, somebody different. That's what wrestling's always about. That's why it feels like AEW is so hot, is because there's always something new and different coming in all the time.
Yeah.
More on that later. God damn.
Yeah.
God damn. So yeah, Bray, I mean, George, your thoughts and stuff on Bray, because like I feel like the Fiend jumped the shark a long time ago. I feel like the Fiend character had a lot of problems in terms of every babyface that went up against him just was a complete geek and got really derailed for a long period of time, And then after all that, he loses to Goldberg and stuff. And everyone's like, well, it's only one loss, it doesn't matter. But it kind of felt like badoink.
Yeah, that's it.
And obviously, there's a whole other discussion about Bray and what's going on with him and stuff, which we'll talk about in a minute. But like as a character and as a performance stuff in WWE, I mean, he's got to be one of the most interesting guys that's come through in the last. He's been there for 12 years, I think.
Something like that. I read that. Yeah.
Yeah. So to come through in the last like 10 years in WWE, I don't think there's been anybody else that's really hit that kind of level of intrigue. I mean, shit, when he first came in, people were like, he could be the new Undertaker.
Yeah.
As a character. So What's your thoughts on Bray? Are you as high on him as I am and a lot of other people are?
It goes back to what you just said, man. Like, he's one of the most creative, intriguing. I did not believe that he was playing a character. Right, I believed, especially with the Manson, the preacher, Bayou type dude. I believed that was him.
Inside that. He was inside that character,
right?
Man.
And that's testament to the performance and the mindset of that dude. Now, the issue is, as soon as you leave, not even a territory, but when you leave a surrounding where you're allowed to cultivate on your own with minimal interference and shape your vision of what you want that character to be, when you go up to the main roster at that time, then you've got everybody's dirty little paw prints all over your creation. And I had read in the last couple of days that he was getting a bit of a rep backstage because he would reject creative that was put to him. And I'm like, no fucking wonder. Look what they've done to this dude. Over the last decade, they have fucked him at every possible opportunity. And
it's like they never gave him that win.
No.
They never gave him the win that he needed, like this against Cena or Taker or whoever the fuck you want to pick, Lesnar, whatever it might be. They never gave him that, so he never got to those Undertaker levels or those top guy level. He was always there, and
not
then
in their eyes, but
not in their eyes. There was always a ceiling that they put on him.
But the crowd
they never were fully. They were never in that Roman Reigns push mode, or the Drew McIntyre push mode, or the Bobby Lashley push mode. They were never in that, like, with Bray,
No.
Don't know if it's because of the spooky character or whatever, but, The Fiend...
That had a limited shelf life. I do agree with you with that. There was far more mileage in that preacher character. Far more mileage.
And Wyatt family as a whole, man, they just broke that up so early. That still had another good 18 months to run. Same with the Shield.
At least.
They both had that, Unbelievable.
And, I always thought there was more mileage in Bray because in NXT, he basically converted Rowan and Harper, right? So when you bring him up to the main roster, the first thing you should be doing is looking at dudes who could either do with a complete reinvention or guys that you're hot on but not quite ready yet, and you put them with him so that you're then setting a stage 12, 18 months down the line where this dude, whoever it might be, I can't even think of, even a name off the top of my head who to put in there. They have to then go through Rowan. They then have to go through Harper, and then they get Wyatt. And you build it so that when he actually gets his comeuppance, it means something. And he's made not only himself a huge star in the previous 12 months, but by beating him, it makes something of the person who is the one to vanquish this lunatic. And that's
the thing, though, is that they beat him right out the gate.
Yeah.
As a singles guy, and anytime it was up against the big main event dude, and it's just I don't get how people these days can say stuff like that doesn't matter.
Of course it matters.
Like that fucking Rosenberg dude and stuff who works for the company or whatever and can say
he's such a cocksucker,
wins and losses don't matter, and you're like,
of course they do.
Yeah, they have to, because even if you don't think everybody that watches wrestling appreciates pushes and whatever the fuck, because there's a lot of I'm going to get into this tonight, because there's this really weird thing going on where there's a drive from certain people to blame WWE's failings on the fans for complaining about failings, right? And it's coming from WWE.
Of course it is.
And various other people around them and stuff, like talent and stuff,
Yeah.
It's a very strange kind of phenomenon that's going on at the moment. But
I don't know if you saw the conversation I had with Michael the other day, and Michael put together, I'm not going to sit and read everything out, just go back on my feed and you'll see it, but Michael's talking about ideas where Bray's trying to steal Steph away from Triple H when the authority stuff's going on, and de facto puts Bray in charge of the WWE. He's like, you book him as a sociopath, you don't book him as he says WWE, they don't write wrestlers as people, and that's the one line from Michael's 3 or 4 tweet idea that really stands out to me. They don't write them as people. Like, there's no logic to why they're fighting. They just fight, and there's nothing else there. I did see that Mickie James kicked off about it as well, about the release. Did you read this?
She had a good fucking point.
Of course she did.
A good point. I didn't see her tweet because I kind of tweeted along the same lines where I was like,
I've got it
it's
here.
just fucking hilarious that they took his character.
Just give me a second, bud, I'll find it.
Took his character, put it on a hot chick.
Yeah.
And then fired him.
Yeah.
You know, because I tweeted that. I was like, that is unbelievable. I was like, that WWE family, thing that they talk about is giving the Manson family a run for its money, because that's like a real callous thing to do. And that's what they did, They transferred his gimmick onto Alexa, and then got rid of him for whatever the fuck reason they got rid of him. And there's a lot of things going around about that,
Yeah, so here's what she says, man.
But Mickie James didn't hit the nail on the proverbial,
So here's Mickie verbatim, right? Thank you so much for coming up with such an incredible gimmick time and time again. One so cool and over that we didn't really know what to do with it or how to book it right. So we just gave it to someone else so we can still make all the money off of it and let you go. That's basically what they did.
Yeah, she's right. And she got shit off of loads of people for that thing, saying like, you're bitter and you're this and you're that and blah, blah, blah.
And she's not the only one.
And it's not.
Rhonda got shit today. Did you see that?
Yeah, well, Rhonda was talking mad shit. Like, she...
Yeah, but she again, is telling the truth.
Yeah, but she can't get over the fact that people booed her. Like, she has got this weird thing of saying, like... She's kind of driving the reason why they fired Bray Wyatt is because of the fans not liking stuff. And I'm like, nah, that's not why they got rid of Bray Wyatt. You can't blame the fan base being critical of you. It doesn't make any sense. She was talking about like a crowd being distracted one time, and you're like, so you're going to put all of that, like that's the reason why Bray didn't really get to the level that he should get to, is because one time in a match that I'm not even sure he was in, they chanted for a beach ball. I'm like, hang on a minute, that's a fucking logic leap if ever I've heard one. You know what I mean? There's a whole other raft of reasons behind the scenes as to why Bray Wyatt never hit the heights that he did, and they all fall on the desk of Vince McMahon, because it's his fucking toy. He's the one that's playing the game, and this is his piece that he's playing at the time, and he didn't get it to the level that people thought he could get it to, like an Undertaker or even a Kane or whatever, and now he's gone.
See,
I just, find it so weird.
I get where you're coming from, and 97, 8, 9% of the blame is squarely at Vince's door for not knowing what to do with someone who's created something infinitely more memorable than Vince has done in the last 25 years, right?
Yeah,
infinitely.
And got over as fuck.
Yeah, right.
Over as fuck.
But broadly speaking, Rhonda's point is right. Like, if you want these dudes to be seen as over in the eyes of the management, do not, when it's, a Raw after a big WrestleMania or a big pay-per-view, do not then sit and get distracted and chant about beach balls when your focus and your enthusiasm and your desire to see the people that you want in positions you want them to be in is directly affected by how they hear you respond to these people. I think there's a broader point to be made there.
Why are you responding to them in that fashion? Why are you not fully invested in that person as the thing? Why is that? Is it because of how they're being presented to you at that time? Is it because you're
because people are drunk and want to be stars of the show?
You're at the Raw after WrestleMania where there are no fucking rules.
I know, but
you can't judge that as like that's what it was like every night Bray worked. Fuck off. No, it wasn't, Ronda. What are you talking about? That never happened.
I genuinely don't think that's the point she was trying to make. I think in a broader context, she was just trying to say, if you want dudes to get over...
She's bitching because people fucking don't like her. She got swapped out as a babyface by Becky. She was done. She did a year. She didn't like it. She didn't like the travel. She didn't like people being critical of her online. She was exactly the same when she was in UFC. And now, I mean, if you want a definition of a bitter ex-wrestler, that's it. Complaining about the fans and not doing a Mickie James and saying, look what the company did to this great talent and guy. No. Look what you fans did to this guy. Your attitude caused this because you're shitty to me. That's what that tweet is. It's bollocks. I don't buy it for a second.
That's entirely your opinion, mate. I just think she's making a broader point there. And to kind of bat it back at you, do you hear at AEW shows, crowds chanting, we want beach balls, we want this, we want that? No, because they're fully invested in what's happening,
what they're being shown,
bell to bell.
Yeah. So
right?
So why is that the fans' fault in WWE. Surely it's WWE's fault for making the fans be in that mindset.
Then you could just sit
when
there
they're at those shows.
Say nothing, couldn't you? It would have exactly the same effect. I just think, if you want somebody to get over, you have to invest in that person, and regardless of how they're booked, continue to stick with them. That's what you have to do if you want anybody to mean anything, because right now you have one top guy in that company, and then you have everybody else at not even as much as a significant level below. Like, there's dudes like Rollins, he's a guy that was directly affected by the Fiend thing, right? And only now, I don't know how much you've seen of Seth in the last 6 months, man, but he is having a fucking riot of a time. He is amazing.
Him and Edge at SummerSlam is going to be so fucking good. Like, I've been dipping in and out of the promo stuff and the
Edge is great,
like the hype and all that. It just feels like that's going to be a fantastic match as well. And his character. Anytime I watch a WWE show and I get that cackling fucking maniac and is wearing his crazy ass suits and stuff, I'm just like, yeah, that dude's having a good time.
Do you know who
fair play to him?
He reminds me a little bit of I forget the second name, but the Joker film. Like, he reminds me very much of Arthur in a lot of ways.
Yeah, the Joaquin Phoenix one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very much so. Like, just howling away to himself.
And he's teetering on the edge a lot, it feels like, when he's a heel.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When he's in his heel character and stuff. But
fucking
great.
It's
crazy. The Bray release is... I've heard a lot of stuff that, like, he's obviously been going through a lot of mental health issues and things after the death of Brody Lee.
Yeah.
That was maybe something that I know he'd posted, like, a lot of stuff on Instagram about that kind of, those kind of emotions and stuff, and talking about how much he needed his family and his kids and his wife and that kind of stuff. So I think he's maybe been going through the ringer, but they were planning on bringing him back. He'd already been advertised on shows in, like, the later part of this month. So, again, it's one of those... I don't think it's, it just feels really, really weird. It's a weird sign. The only thing I can think of is he was on a big-ass contract, and, WWE's whole deal at the moment is profit margins, right?
Yeah.
That's all we ever talk about, George, is their profit, It's not about how much money they bring in, it's how much profit they make, That's what's important. So if they're bringing in less money through live events or, whatever, TV-wise, they're fucking set, so this shouldn't be an issue. Because the reason they gave this act to George was budget cuts,
Yeah.
What the fuck, man?
Of course it is, right? That's the default reason for everything, bud. And there has got to be a point in time where this bullshit stops. Like,
it's got to be something. But, like, people buy that still. I've seen people all week on Twitter being like, "Nah, man, yeah, you got, tough times, tough economic times, and all that. You got to make these sacrifices." You're like, "What are you talking about, man?"
So you and I we live in the real world, right? Not in some bubble created by this fucking lunatic, right? If you're looking at it, even at a kayfabe point of view, even at that, right, we are supposed to believe that Fox run SmackDown and USA run Raw. Have I got that the right way around, yeah?
Yeah.
So, how do you think those networks would feel at these raft of sackings when they've supposedly chosen the people they want to be on their headline shows?
Yeah, I was reading tweets where somebody was saying, like, people within the networks were like, "What the hell?" That guy was great. He was he was a ratings guy. He was a merch mover. He was a moneymaker.
Yeah,
he's a star. Why cut him?
Especially when...
he didn't ask for his release or anything. They let him go.
Well, like I said, man, the other day, it's all right. We've got Baron Corbin, and he's feuding with Finn Balor, and
thank God.
Baron Corbin doesn't have any money, so we're supposed to feel sorry for him. And there's that.
I saw he's letting his pattern baldness hair come back in as well. He's growing it back in because he's poor, can't afford a haircut.
Yeah,
he's rocking the friar tuck.
Yeah, he can't afford a haircut, but the cunt can still afford to fly from venue to venue.
Yeah, and I don't know. Baron Corbin, just Jesus Christ, nonsense. I can't even comprehend his existence at the moment.
Oh Christ, on a bike.
Yeah, so Bray Wyatt's gone, dude.
Yes,
it's just crazy. It just, any final thoughts on this? AEW, what do you think?
Nah, man, send him to Japan. Just if he wants to.
It'd be awesome in New Japan.
I'm not talking specifically that character, but that dude with that creativity and that environment, I think would be just a spectacular attraction.
But he would get over like fuck.
The most important thing that everybody needs to bear in mind as well is if he struggled as badly as everybody thinks that he has since Brody Lee died, that motherfucker needs to get his head right first and foremost, and just totally, leave 100%. Him to come to it when he feels the time is right. And
Yeah.
there may never be a right time, Sam. So we should get used to the fact that this dude may not be seen in any capacity at any wrestling show ever again. And
I hope he has one of these go away, mend your body, mend your mind sort of periods of time.
Me too,
and
man.
then get your creativity going, and then come back with something completely new.
Mm-hmm.
Completely different.
Don't rehash anything. Just
don't rehash it. Just go again. But all I could think, and I'm just going to put this out into the ether because somebody mentioned it, put it forward as when everyone's fantasy booking and going crazy and putting all this stuff out on Twitter and whatnot, and it just went by when I was doom scrolling and I was like, oh man, suddenly that makes a lot of sense. And it was a stable in AEW, and it was like Butcher, Blade, Bunny, Bray, Malachi Black. Like that crew of like leather tattooed up crazy people together, and I was like, ooh, even Bray and somebody, and just the idea of like a faction again for him because he was so successful the first time with it, and AEW's so big on factions and things. There's all that, but yeah, just let the guy get his shit together if that's what's going on. We'll see where he goes next because I'm sure. I mean, people are going to be interested. People are going to watch and follow, because he's a compelling guy, a compelling character,
great storyteller, man.
Yeah, man, great promo. Sometimes we wonder a bit, but that's because I think, I don't know.
That's what happens when you've got too many people interfering in what your creation is.
Totally. Yeah.
And we'll get to AEW probably in about half an hour's time or so. But just look at the difference in Aleister Black, Malachi Black, Tommy End, whatever fucking name you want to use. Look how much of a star that dude is now in 6 weeks. Compared to 2 years on that fucking main roster.
I know, man, and he hasn't even had a match yet.
No.
It's crazy. He was in PWG this weekend. Yeah. He made a big appearance going against Super Dragon. It's fucking insane. Anyways, so Bray Wyatt's gone. We'll see where he goes. Just wishing him all the best and fucking, come back bigger, brighter, stronger, better, and, people pay to see you do cool shit, I'm sure. Somebody who did ask for his release and was given it, and apparently it's because he's not happy with Charlotte's push. Ric Flair. He's like, what are you talking about, Rick? How much? I mean, I'm assuming it's maybe to do with him and the Lacey Evans stuff, which apparently he didn't like.
Oh.
And I kind of only saw little bits of it, and I was like, I'm not into this at all.
I'm sure Ric Flair had many, many reservations about working with a hot blonde chick on TV. And pretending to be the father of her child. Like, come on.
Because you're kind of like, Rick, this is so in your wheelhouse, dude.
This is your life, motherfucker. Like,
I mean, I don't know if it's like, because it was opposite Charlotte that made him uncomfortable, which I don't understand.
Just say no then. Like,
and maybe it's just because maybe Charlotte's been through so much, like, fucked up parental stuff with him, like not being there and the divorces and all that kind of stuff. Maybe he was like a bit, I don't really want to do the family thing, but I don't know, what else do you do with Ric Flair these days, I really, people were like, oh, get him in the AEW and get the Four Horsemen together. It's like, right, hold on a fucking minute. For a start, him and Arn Anderson hate each other at the moment. They are not cool.
No.
So that is not going to happen,
But then Tully might be the one to bring them together, you don't know.
You could do, and it would be a great moment and a good thing and all that, and let's do it at pay-per-view or whatever, and, have have the first AEW Hall of Fame or whatever, and put the Horsemen. I don't know. I know they're Tony Khan's favourite stable, so that's why AEW is the way it is. It's because of the Horsemen. But
Tony needs to be careful though, man. Like, in my opinion, what they should be doing is, if Ric Flair is going to have any part to play in any wrestling company at all, it should only be as a talking head. Like, you bring him out in front of a live crowd once every so often. Do not give that motherfucker a microphone.
Yeah, woo and wave and get the fuck back in.
Yep.
I mean, the thing is like he's so old and he's been through so much physically in the last few years, like illness wise and stuff. And it's just like, I don't know, man, just go and chill out.
I know, you just deserve your retirement, Rick.
Just
like,
relax, yeah, man. Just whatever. I mean, he's old. He's like, what is he in his 70s?
Yeah, mid-70s at least. And you're just like, Rick, I don't need to be seeing you on television at all, preferably.
No.
But, just those hype videos they do on AEW pay-per-views? They've got Jim Ross, they've got Tony, they've got Taz sometimes, Excalibur.
Oh, fuck yeah,
just
that's
put
a good
Flair
idea.
in there, man.
That's a great idea, yeah, because there's like a legitimate talking head straight away. And he can do, like, you can sit him down and he can do one on every fucking wrestler and match that's coming up and he'll sell them like crazy.
Totally.
You know what I mean? That's what Flair does, man. When we watch those retro shows, he's cutting promos on other people's matches, He's like, "Oh, Anderson's going to go out there and kick this guy's ass, and then I'm going to come out later on." You're like, sweet. But yeah, so Ric Flair asked for and received his release from WWE, and I don't know, it just seems like okay. You know, like, I don't know, people got very excited and upset at the same time.
It's not earth-shattering, Sam, is it?
Nah, it's very reactionary, Twitter. I know that's not a huge statement to make, but goddamn,
no shit.
Sometimes they freak out. Jeff Jarrett left as well, quietly, under the radar. Did you hear about that?
No, I did not.
Yeah.
So Jeff's gone as well?
He was quietly let go a couple of months ago, like 2 months ago or so. Yeah, so they are cleaning house on a few things and a few people. I did hear they were talking about wanting to bring Braun Strowman back. Because they got spooked after the CM Punk and Bryan Danielson stuff with AEW, but who knows? I mean, whatever.
we spoke about this actually last week, bud. Right? Punk and Danielson will be, if they go to AEW, which is looking more and more likely that they will be, and they'll be there in the next 4 or 5 weeks or so.
They fucking Punk better be at that Chicago
Can you
Rampage
imagine?
Show, because
can you fucking imagine?
They just shifted like fucking 17,000 tickets or whatever it was in an hour.
Absolute
like, come on.
Madness if he doesn't show up.
Come on.
But
I know.
They're game-changing signings, right? And the fact of the matter is now there is literally no big free agents left for them to sign, pilfer, bring back, nothing. That's why we have Bill in the main event at SummerSlam again. That's why John's back. That's why Dwayne will be back in the not too distant future. That's why I'm assuming Brock will be back sooner rather than later. Becky is probably the only one, in terms of like someone who can really kind of get some kind of growth in terms of the audience back. But there's nothing else, and Becky's not even a free agent. She's just been on matty leave, Like,
I know. And then the problem is from their
they've got nothing, man.
Their ratings point of view is obviously NFL be coming back soon as well, and that always takes a big chunk out of the Raw audience, So,
I mean,
who knows, man? Who knows what's going on?
Here's a maths question for you, Sam.
Shit!
Now,
I can barely count.
Get the calculator out. Get the abacus at the ready.
Hold on. I'm taking my socks off, everyone. Hold on.
Okay, yeah, you'll need your 20 toes for this.
Fuck you, man.
What is a big chunk?
17 and a half, all right? 17 and a half toes.
What is a big chunk of nothing?
Nothing. What's nothing equals nothing?
Yeah. Like, so how can, like, their ratings are through the floor, man, right?
Yeah, dude. Yeah.
When the football's back, and there will be crowds in the NFL, right? That could take as much of a third off of what they're getting.
They could be getting very close to Dynamite, in terms of like total viewership.
And people shit on the numbers that Dynamite, not people, but the Vincels shit on the numbers that Dynamite gets, and I'm like, motherfucker.
You're bumping along near it, and they're climbing. They're climbing.
They're climbing and you're tumbling. So I know what side of that mountain pass I want to be on.
It's definitely like one of those Olympic races where a dude's out in front and doesn't know this person's flying up on the outside. He's going to pass them in a few laps. But, I don't know, man. Fucking, I don't know, these releases and stuff, it's crazy. I'll tell you something else, George, as well.
What's this?
Week. I think it's even today, it might be. I think I saw this morning, it's today. The 1 year anniversary of the debut of probably the most forgettable stable in the history of wrestling. Or maybe even one of the most memorable, depending on how you stand on these things. Retribution, George. Remember them? The Antifa of WWE?
Yeah.
Remember them?
Kind of.
Remember?
Kind of.
The stable that was so shit, people went back to NXT to get away from it.
Yeah.
And that's a legitimate fact.
Yeah.
Like, goddamn, George. I mean, I think it was Brian Rose, who's a buddy of mine who does the gaming stuff for Wrestling Observer, Figure 4 Weekly. He does all their Twitch channel and stuff, and he writes on the site and things. Yep. He was talking about how he was like, I tweeted about that. It was like, it's the 1 year anniversary of like this stable and stuff, and he's like, that is the perfect example of like WWE just being a content creator. Just look at the beginning, the middle, and the end of the storyline of that stable, George. Like, what the fuck? I have no words, man.
Neither do I. I mean, what else can you say about it, really? Like, that is just a reaction to Vince getting called out for his lack of creativity on an investor call. He brings in a stable who basically spray painted some stuff and chucked things around in an empty arena.
Wrecked an empty building, yeah.
Wow. Heat machine.
Dangerous.
Dangerous. I mean, people talk about Vince being this creative genius, man. Just look at that. Just look at what he did at this time last year. That Retribution clusterfuck. And that's not even to mention that abortion that was Raw Underground either.
I was just going to say, that was the double header. And remember they had this, like, I was reading it today, I think, where he was talking about this revolutionary idea that they come up with that was going to change the business and bring all their fans back and all that stuff. And it turned out to be Retribution and Raw Underground, both of which were done within, what? Raw Underground 6 weeks?
If
maybe?
that. Yeah, if that.
And Retribution 3 months, maybe? You know?
Yeah, I mean, Raw Underground ended because of COVID, basically. Like, everybody that was in that set pretty much got COVID.
Okay.
And you're like, well, of course they would get fucking COVID. Like, you're putting all these talent in one room with no safety precautions. What the fuck do you think is going to happen?
One big sweaty room and then make them all roll around with each other.
You absolute jackass.
Yeah. Yeah, unreal. So, yeah, the 1 year debut of Retribution, you know, like, we hardly knew ye. Moment of silence for Retribution, everybody. Somebody tweeted me today, was it like justice for Slapjack? I'm sure somebody hashtag me with that. Let me have a look. Where was it?
Poor old T-Bar.
Let's have a wee look. Yeah, justice for Slapjack. That's a shout out to a friend of the show, Aaron Roberts. Justice for Slapjack, everybody. So yeah, Charlotte and Max Caster, folks, are in hot water over promos that they cut, referencing Simone Biles and Max. What the fuck else did he talk about? It was some kind of sexual assault at a school or something? I don't know, it was some pretty harsh shit. Like, the kind of stuff that, you know, if I'm watching, like, if I'm listening to or watching, like, Legion of Skanks podcast, I'm expecting jokes in that wheelhouse of, like, God damn, you couldn't say that on TV. Like, God damn, you couldn't say that in front of many people. You know what I mean? Like, there is a time and a place for certain types of, you know, because I'm kind of the opinion that, like, you can kind of joke about either everything or nothing, but it depends on who you're joking with and in front of, you know, and the audience has to be in on what you're doing. A lot of people were really upset about the Charlotte Flair, Simone Biles stuff, where I didn't even fucking watch the promo, but I'm assuming she referenced it as some sort of mental weakness as a way to get heat about Nikki George. I'm assuming that's what they did. I don't really care. But.
I mean, this should tell you everything you need to know, right? I tried to watch the auto recording of Raw, and then my DVR basically said, "We are having problems playing this right now."
They're like, what the fuck's wrong with you? That's what your DVR is saying. What the fuck's wrong with you, man? Go watch something good.
My DVR is censoring me from watching Raw. So, I mean, it'll be something like that, won't it? Like, Vince sees any kind of sort of mental weakness as, you know, you're basically not tough enough to be in this business.
Yeah, if you sneeze, you're not tough enough to be in this business, you know?
Vince,
or sleep.
I mean, I personally, I don't have any issue with anything that she's said. Like, if it's a way to draw heat, fine. But you have to then get heat on the character, not the company. Like, and that's all that happens in those scenarios, man. We've seen it time and time again. Like, especially, I think Paige said something about Charlotte's brother, didn't she? All those years ago.
Yeah.
And all
Randy
the heat goes on.
About
Eddie Guerrero
being in hell.
Like, the heat then goes on the company.
Yeah, because they're like, why did you make them say that?
Yeah.
Because they know you made them say that.
Yeah.
You know they didn't say it, come up with themselves.
They haven't said it in an interview with press.
AEW have the flip reverse where, you know, Max has come up with that himself and said it. He's not been told to say that because he just freestyles, he does his raps himself. He writes them himself every week on Dark and stuff and on Elevation. But straight away, Tony Khan was out earlier on today and he was like, he doesn't edit Dark and Elevation. He didn't know about it, and he is now taken over editing the show, and he apologized and said, you know, if I'd have known that was on there, we wouldn't have broadcast it because it's not really, you know, what we're wanting to do. And it's kind of crazy that you can have Jericho and Nick Gage carving each other up all bloody as fuck on a Wednesday night on primetime TV, But, and everyone's kind of like, there's a bit of outrage in the Domino's Pizza thing and stuff, which we'll talk about in a minute, because I thought we might talk about death matches and stuff.
I think...
got that kind of thing going on. But then, somebody says something about out of line, and there's much more of a blow-up, and it's something on YouTube, But they did rectify it, I suppose. They cut it out after they broadcast, after first it went out, and that was on there, and everyone freaked. They pulled it down, cut it out, put it back up. Tony apologised for it and said, I'll be editing the shows from now on to make sure nothing like that happens again. Sorry.
I mean, at the same time, Sam, you can't be that sensitive about everything.
Yes, it's true.
Yeah. You can't be a wrestling fan and be that sensitive. It's not like the girl... I don't know what her issue is, right? I don't know what she's struggling with, but clearly she's not in a good place, right? And after everything we said about Bray earlier on, that stands for Simone as well. Get yourself the help that you need and just address what needs to be addressed, right? That's my personal view on that, and I'm sure most normal people feel that way.
She's a human being. She's not a fucking, she's not like she's
not a robot like Charlotte is.
A robot, she's not from Westworld like Charlotte.
No, but at the same time, Sam, she's not. I would be more offended by it if she had taken action that would have either injured herself or something a lot worse.
Yeah. Right?
So if the girl has hurt herself, or, God forbid, worse than that, then yeah, fair enough. Cut it, don't say that. That's where the line is for me.
Yeah. I think the deal is Max
But they're poking fun at her in the same way that a comedian would, and I don't see what the big fucking uproar is, to be perfectly honest, about someone with that creative license. There has to be some kind of freedom of speech, expression,
Max
within
Caster
the context of an entertainment thing, man. Come on.
Yeah, Max Caster in particular in the Acclaim can, talk mad shit about everybody and say crazy shit, and he has done for weeks and weeks and weeks, and people have been really happy about it and really loving it. And he's cut close to the bone on a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And, got personal with people, and it's got over. People really like it. And he always has to do the topical thing that week, and reference stuff that's happened in the news or whatever. And it's kind of like, all right, so people are cool with it until they're not cool with it.
Yeah.
It's always the same with this stuff. There's always a trigger point for people where, all of a sudden, but there will always be other people who are like, well, look, he's a heel, and, maybe you're not personally comfortable with that kind of heat, but motherfucker, you're watching pro wrestling.
Yeah.
You know what this shit, if you don't know what this shit was built on, if you knew what this shit was built on, you wouldn't watch it if that's your mindset about a lot of this stuff.
Yep.
People are there is a very sensitive, very easily set off section of the wrestling fan base on Twitter, because I kind of see them going around, and a lot of them are blocked and muted and stuff because they're just shrieking banshees of insanity about everything, but there is a section of it that are a bit like that, and I'm kind of like, you're not watching a Disney show.
No.
You're watching a weird Disney show that was created, Walt never died in WWE.
No.
You know what I mean? So no one else was able to take over and fashion Walt's vision into whatever the fuck Disney became, and harness that and stuff. Walt was out of the picture. They got rid of the old Nazi, early on, and then were able to thing it. WWE got theirs for life. So I don't know. It's a strange thing where you're kind of getting on the moral high ground about someone in pro wrestling shouldn't say this or do this, and I'm like, come on, even the real life stuff, George, that's happened in wrestling, with people dying and stuff, and all the criminality and things of the past, and you're gonna really sit there and be like, this is the worst thing that's ever happened in wrestling. This 2-sentence, 15-second promo on YouTube that was watched by 125,000 people is the worst thing that's ever happened. You're like, you ever heard of Jimmy Snuka? Come on.
And that's it, mate. That's it. And
come on.
See, when you were a kid, right? I think a lot of these problems that these people have, and this, I might just kick off now, why not? A lot of these kids now, and these people that complain about this kind of shit, I don't think they were ever told no by their parents when they were growing up. They've got everything they wanted their own way, instead of, I'm sure your folks were the same as mine. If you harped on about something, I want this, I want this, I want this, you're told no, and eventually you fucking deal with it and move on.
Yeah.
But these people have just been catered to and given everything they want, and it's something we touch on all the time, like personal privilege. Like, you don't have the right as one person to affect the creative output of a multinational company. You are one voice out of millions of people. What gives you the right to say that fucking Max Caster can't slag off Simone Biles because he thinks, oh, that'll be a good way to get a good reaction?
Yeah.
That's all it is.
Yeah. That's such a good point. I think the thing is that the people that do shout the loudest about it really think that they should have some input in this stuff, you know? Because the thing I always try to remember
start your own fucking company then. It'll be boring as fuck and it'll go nowhere.
The thing I always remember, though, is like a lot of these people, you know, no, it's fair enough, it's true. But I always think of a lot of these people are not coming from a place of, you know, like security emotionally and financially and, you know, whatever, and they're very unfulfilled, and there's a lot of, you know, hate and stuff and jealousy that comes out and stuff, and there's a lot of attention seeking and a lot of, you know, like, I want this now, and, you know, you can't take that away from me, or that upsets me. And there's also a lot of, I'll look good if I act upset about this, because there's a lot of Twitter accounts that I see, they're all very similar looking guys of a similar age and build and hairline and weight. Who?
Hey,
I mean, they look like me. I know. I'm just gonna say it. They look like me, which is
personal,
terrible.
Motherfucker.
But they white knight all of these topics hard as fuck, and they can't all really give that much of a fuck.
No.
Like, there aren't that many feminist men in wrestling landscape, I don't think.
No.
I think there's a lot of guys hiding behind that facade as a way to slide into the DMs and shit, you know, of like a role-playing character or whatever that they're following, you know? I don't know. What I'm saying is they're sad fucks. And they look like me, which is terrible.
Change up the look, my friend.
I know. I got to get rid of this beard.
Yeah.
So yeah, wrestling promos, everybody settle down. I know it's fucking crazy. I can't believe people actually were surprised WWE did it with Charlotte as well. Like, what? Of course they're going to do that, you know. Anyway. AEW, folks. We'll do a quick AEW chat, and then we're going to finish off with your questions from the mailbag, George, which we're bringing back this week. AEW have now topped 1 million viewers for 3 weeks in a row. What have you thought? Any sort of standout moments and stuff from the last couple of shows since we recorded with AEW?
I laughed my ass off at the Space Jam intro for the Elite Squad on last week's Dynamite.
They spent $50,000 on the music for that.
That was well worth it, man. I laughed
so worth it.
My ass off.
Me and Martin were watching Dynamite together because he was here, and we were like, and Owen, that's the only thing he paid attention to was the Bucks and Kenny and everybody. Dude, Don Callis' shorts, folks. Can we just address that, George?
I've still to recover mentally from that, Sam.
I thought I was looking at like one of those big old dinosaurs, you know, the bird ones that have the weird big chicken legs. His legs are so fucking weird and skinny and bony
and
like,
white,
and so white. Like, do you think they put makeup on to make them whiter?
I think so. Compared to the
Bucks,
or
is that just a
Kenny.
natural shade for a Canadian? What do you think?
No, because Jericho's got some good skin colour. Like,
but then again, Jericho has lived in Florida pretty much.
I suppose,
since, like, the 90s, you know.
Maybe it was just a contrast because, you know, Kenny and the Bucks and the Good Brothers have all got some decent colour, so maybe it was to make it that blindingly obvious. I don't know.
Because it was the first thing I spotted, you know. I was like, God damn.
And then Tony and Don going off at each other again on commentary is the highlight of any Dynamite for me. It's
always great.
Fucking amazing, especially
always great
when you've got Jim Ross there just bringing the tone down. So I say shift JR out, put Don there as the voice of the Elite on throughout the entire show, and just leave Tony, Excalibur, and Don to just go at it, man. That's what Tony should do.
So great. AEW commentary is so much fun.
Yeah.
Even with the kind of, you know, this week on Dark Elevation, and I think on Dark, Eddie Kingston's on there with Tony and Big Show.
Nice.
And they're just fucking, the three of them together are hilarious. And then they recorded a show which I think is out, I'm not sure when the schedule is, but David Crockett used to be the commentator for the NWA, the Jim Crockett promotion stuff on TV. The crazy like guy that would get so upset when heels did stuff. He was so into it, you know, like David Crockett was just amazing. He's on commentary with Eddie Kingston and Tony Schiavone as well this week, so they're bringing all these different combos in and doing lots of fun stuff with it, which is always good. But we won't get to the Hangman stuff because there's a question in the mailbag about that.
Right, okay.
Right? So we'll hold fire on that. The the CM Punk Chicago sellout show, George.
Yeah.
Without even mentioning him by name.
Yeah.
Sold on Darby Allin using the phrase like best in the world and them announcing a surprise show in Chicago. Now, I don't know if people really get how amazing this is, because in 2 weeks after this Rampage show, they've got like 3 shows in Chicago.
Yeah.
2 of which have sold out, I think.
Yeah.
So they're coming back to that market 2 weeks, and they just dropped that show out in the biggest arena that they could in Chicago, with no card announced, no hype, just like, this is Rampage, the second one, and they called it The First Dance, which I think is a tie into the Chicago Bulls and the Last Dance documentary and all that sort of stuff with Michael Jordan, and, obviously hinting at Punk. The crowd chants CM Punk as soon as they announce the show. Darby cuts his promo, and they shift like 16 or 15,000 tickets in the pre-sale.
Yeah.
I mean, what the fuck, man? Talk about a hot product.
You want to talk about shifting numbers, bud? There's proof in the pudding, and they haven't even announced the dude.
No.
Like,
they just did an Easter egg in a promo.
That is rumour and innuendo at the very least. That's what that is, and it is remarkable. Like that. Yeah. Like you said, that'll be about 60,000 people across those. It'll be 4 shows in total, won't it, over those 3 weeks?
Yeah.
In the same market.
Yeah.
Like,
and then they've got the 12,000 in Providence, I think it was, and then they've got the Arthur Ashe Stadium show, which is like another 18,000 or whatever the following week. Like,
this is a wrestling company, to put this in perspective, right? That had only done less than 6 months live on the road TV before the pandemic. And look at the numbers they're shifting now. And you look at Vince's conglomerate, who are struggling to sell out the most inane, and I'm sorry to the people that live in Bumblefuck, Ohio, or wherever it is, they can't sell those places out. They certainly can't sell out the Garden, even with John and Roman and a whole super show, they're calling it. They can't shift tickets for that.
No.
And then you look at what Tony Khan's done. Proof's in the pudding, motherfuckers.
No, it's true, man. You can't like ignore this or talk this down or play it off, because
absolutely
the whole thing it used to be anyway, of judging popularity in pro wrestling was how many people you could get the fuck off their couch, get out their house, come to an arena and watch a show.
Put asses in seats.
Put asses in seats, and that was the whole basis of the business through the 1920s right up until cable TV, and then the whole thing became pay-per-view and getting people to stay in and watch the shows, together and pay for them and stuff, and still have the crowd obviously, but that wasn't, house show thing wasn't the main business driver, you know what I mean? And WWE they kind of moved away into their network and all that sort of stuff, but AEW are now showing that you can still do that. You can still, they're not doing like a house show tour, they're doing an episode of TV in a different city each week, but being able to shift like pay-per-view level crowds without announcing the cards and stuff in advance, because some of these are selling out way in advance and stuff, and obviously they're not doing that everywhere, but in the markets where it fucking counts, like Chicago and New York and all these places, if they get big in Texas, and I know they did really well in Texas when they went through there recently, so it's you can't deny the momentum, and everything's kind of going in the right direction and stuff, but the CM Punk Chicago show is nuts, no matter how you think about it. Like, that's unheard of, to be able to shift the amount of tickets on, if you come to AEW, you better be the best in the world. Like, that was it.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, shut up and take my fucking money.
Yeah.
I'm coming to that show. And it's nuts as well, because Meltzer in The Observer on Friday spent like 17 paragraphs writing about how much of a fucking gamble that was, because it was before tickets went on sale, and how this had to happen, and you don't have the travelling crowd coming in for a pay-per-view, and you don't have this factor and that factor, and what happens if this goes on, and da-da-da, and then the show's announced and bang, 15,000 tickets in an hour, gone. Like, come on folks, it's time to start paying attention to these fuckers. I think they know what they're doing, If it keeps going like this, see how it goes. But yeah, one of the big things, obviously, from Dynamite, Chris Jericho against Nick Gage, MDK all fucking day. Never thought I would see a death match like that on TV.
No.
Especially in 2021, where everyone's so butthurt about everything. But what did you think, George? And what do you... I mean, some people claimed that Jericho went to AEW just to make an easy paycheck. I mean, come on.
That motherfucker in the last... well, he's been there over 2 years, right? In that company, over 2 years. He has gone to work, man. Like, that dude is 50 years old.
Yeah.
And he's working like he's 35. Like, he
was bleeding everywhere on this show, like in this match.
Standing for a man of his... Like, and it sounds patronising as fuck, and I don't mean it to be, but that is a dude who probably shouldn't be working anywhere near that level. Not with a dude as violent as Nick Gage, and holy fucking Christ, I've never seen anything as violent as that.
No,
Never.
I don't. I'm not big into death matches. I don't watch any of the deathmatch stuff. You know, I've seen Nick Gage do a few things. I've seen a few gifs and a few oh my gods and injuries and that kind of stuff. But I've never sat down and watched the death match all the way through, like with light tubes and all that stuff. I watched ECW and I've watched some FNW stuff from the past, but I've never really got into the whole like CZW. You know, a bunch of dudes just really hurting each other and stuff for real in front. You know, with not that many people about. Watching, I don't know, it never really kind of got me. But I get it, you know, I get the popularity of it, and I was totally into the fucking drama of the match between Jericho and Gage, just like the brutality of it and the fact that he kept bringing out all the stuff that you thought he wouldn't bring out in AEW. I was always like, nah, there's no way they're going to use the pizza cutter, there's no way they're going to use light tubes and all this sort of stuff, and they did it. I thought they were going to go table bumps and maybe some barbed wire, that kind of way, but they just fucking decided, right, come on, if we're going to have Nick Gage on our TV show in a main event against one of our biggest names, in fact, probably our biggest named guy for wrestling fans and mainstream people, if we're going to have that match on the main event of our television show, we're going to do a Nick Gage match. And they did, you know, going through that fucking pane of glass and stuff, you know, just, yeah, not my cup of tea. I don't really dig it. I wouldn't decide to watch it in my spare time, but fuck me, it's compelling. You know, it's kind of like a horror movie. I'm not a person that'll sit and watch a horror movie, but if one's on and I do see stuff on it, I would be like quite into it, but I wouldn't seek it out or whatever. But I can appreciate the, you know, the fucking.
You have to respect the toughness of those dudes.
Yeah, the toughness of it. Yeah.
To do that, man, because like I even just looking at that, I'm like, there is no fucking way. Number one, that I would sign up for it, right? And second of all, I ain't taking a back bump through a pane of glass.
Hell no.
There is no amount of money in the entire world that could convince me to do that. And that Nick Gage is a fucking lunatic, man. Like,
yeah, man. Yeah, he talk about a guy that lives his character and his gimmick,
yeah.
You know, like that dude has a proper element of threat and danger about him. You know, that nobody really has. In like even Moxley has that in a certain way, but you're always kind of like. Yeah, but he's married to Renee, so he can't be that much of a fucking psycho.
Yeah, he's not that much of a fucking lunatic.
But Gage, you're like, whoa. You know, like, does he live in a car? Like, does he live in an abandoned car somewhere in a car park?
Yes.
Yeah. He's got that look, and I know he probably did at some point in his life, which makes him even more, like, real and compelling. Because, you know, I mean, a ton of people wouldn't have known who he was.
Nah.
And I thought AEW did a really good job on it and, you know, explaining who he was and allowing it to show who he is. But there was a bit of discussion, George, on the MFX Facebook discussion group and stuff.
Yes.
Around all of this and the fact that we've had like the Lance Archer Moxley match, and then the following week we've had this death match and stuff, and they've done a lot of blood, and you know there was a fuck up on this show where Cash Wheeler cut his arm on the turnbuckle thing, sliced his arm open, and that was really bloody. But that's kind of different. But you know, 2 weeks in a row main events with a lot of blood and violence and stuff is like, do you think they take this down a notch for the next couple of months and we don't get that, or do you think this is kind of AEW because it's drawing? You know, people haven't been turned off apart from Domino's by this whole thing. Do you think they keep it going? Because a lot of people were saying like I've kind of had my fill of these kind of matches for a while. What was your take on that?
You kind of have to put your trust in Tony Khan. You know, leading up to this, bud, we had the Moxley and Omega clusterfuck, which was kind of a death match, but not really. And there has been a lot of violence in the last fortnight, 3 weeks. I don't see it becoming a weekly occurrence. I just don't. They have too much talent to rely on that kind of hyper violence almost. You know, they can tell better stories than that. So I don't see it being a long term issue. If that happens on a more regular basis, then they'll probably need to kind of just rein it in and maybe save it. You know, maybe once a year, once every couple of years, something like that. So. I
think you can do like no DQ, matches and stuff, or a street fight or whatever, but not a death match.
No.
You know? Yeah.
No, they'll rein that shit in. And, you know, I'm at the stage now where Tony's got enough kind of built in, like I trust the man to make the right decisions.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And I have not felt like that about a wrestling promoter in some considerable time.
No, I was talking to my brother about it when he was here, and I was kind of saying, like, the last time
I pay money for his product, man. Like, yeah, I've never done that with Vince. Not even, you know.
Yeah. I bought every pay-per-view. I subscribed to Fight. You know, I put money towards it. But I was talking to my brother about it when he was here, and we were talking about, like, he was asking, like, who would be your favorite booker and roster that you could put together? Which is actually a really good question for you. Like, which wrestling booker from whichever period of time, whoever your favorite one is, and that kind of stuff, and any roster from any company in any period in history, who would you put together? You know, to see a cool show happening or whatever. You know, and we were talking about that, and you know, the only way I could describe how the feeling I get with AEW and the way Tony Khan books and stuff is like when Gabe Sapolsky was booking Ring of Honor, especially in the kind of around the Age of the Fall period and a bit before that, and then the kind of, you know, the Danielson era and the guys coming in from Japan and Punk and, you know, Joe and all these stories and everything that built through matches and angles and over the course of DVDs. You know, you would just get a show, you know, I would get like 4 DVDs every couple of months and try and keep up with what was going on and watch stuff on the wrestling channel and whatever. But I had that thing with Ring of Honor, you know, like my loft's full of the DVDs, like hundreds of them. Where it was like, yeah, I will gladly pay money for this product because, you know, it is something that I'm really into and invested in. I want to see it do well and I want to help it in any way, in the way that I can, you know, which is by that kind of thing. So yeah, I'm in the exact same boat as you. I'm like, yeah, I trust Tony. I trust TK. TK knows what he's doing, folks. You know, let's just strap in and see where we are at Christmas with this company, and the roster and what the fuck's going on. Because I did see today, Ruby Riott is pretty much confirmed. Ruby Soho coming in to fucking bolster the women's division, which is a hell of a pickup. I think that's a really smart move. What do you think of that one, George?
But it's another ex-WWE talent, Sam. They can't sign them all.
No, you can't have talented stars. There's too many people. I don't understand who everyone is. It's like, Jesus Christ, man. You never watched WCW in 1998. The amount of stars on that fucking show. It was awesome. Fucking, my God, come on.
I mean,
you know? And this time they got a good booker. So.
Tony knows what he's doing, man. And
yeah,
I think Tony listens to this show.
I wouldn't be surprised, dude. Tony's the man.
Do you know why I think that?
Uh-huh.
A number of weeks ago, I pitched an idea when they were leaving Daly's place, right? About going back there and they do this big show, and it's called AEW Homecoming, right?
Yeah.
What is Dynamite tonight?
It is Homecoming, yes.
And where is it coming from?
Yeah, Daly's place.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Cheers,
Cody
TK.
and Malachi. Yeah. Checks in the mail.
Yeah.
It better be TK.
It fucking better be.
Yeah, Cody and Malachi Black tonight's going to be an interesting one. See how that finish ends up. I'm thinking I think Cody's going to do for him what he did for Brody. I think he's going to get his fucking head kicked off pretty quick and get pinned.
Would you not save that for All Out, though, man?
Well, it would depend on whether or not I had CM Punk coming in for All Out and stuff. But I would definitely do the rematch at All Out. I know it's only like 5 weeks away, I think, or something like that.
Fuck finished tonight?
No, I think Malachi pins him clean. I think you've got to. The way they've pushed him since he's come in, and, you know, Cody is the guy. I mean, Cody will probably come back and beat him and get his win back. You know, Cody does like to do that, but he also is smart and knows, you know, what the fuck has got to go on. And they don't do fuck finish. They don't do like. Do you mean like interference or something?
Yeah.
Or like his stable foreman or something? Maybe could do that. I don't know. Yeah, there's a lot of... That's the thing, man. There's so many possibilities, you know? It's awesome. Miro's going to fuck up that Lee Johnson kid. He's in trouble tonight, everybody.
Yeah, Lee, have the paramedics on standby, my friend, because you will need them.
Oh, goddamn. Miro just keeps talking about his double-jointed wife. Like, I hope Lana comes in and they just cut horny-ass promos all the time with him going on about being God and she's the goddess and all that shit. That'd be great. Yeah, just fucking Miro. What a guy. What a fucking man. Anyway, that's pretty much all the news and reviews and stuff for since the last show, folks. I'm sure by the time we record the next one, there'll be a fuck ton more, George, and we'll have a retro show as well to review, which is always fun. But let's wrap up with Mailbag this week. we asked you on Twitter, Facebook discussion group, all that good shit. Get in touch. Give us your wrestling-related questions, topics, opinions, and stuff for me and George to pick apart and chat about and all that stuff. So, George, we've got a ton of shit this week. A couple of them are from the last show as well, which we didn't get to.
Okay.
Because we ran long, as always.
See, it ain't so.
But, nah, no, man. But here we go. First question comes in from friend of the show, David Valdez. Name a UK voice you'd love to hear call a wrestling match for AEW, either play-by-play or colour. So a UK commentator. Now, I'm not sure if that's just wrestling commentators, because I have an answer for this.
Now, I love David's questions, right? Before we even get to answering it, David's questions are always tremendous, right? He gave us that awesome football one, remember?
He's got another one coming up at the end of this as well, because this is from the last show, so he's got one for this show as well.
Ah, excellent. So is the show going to be is this mailbag a David sandwich? Is that what's happening?
This is a David Valdez sandwich.
Nice.
Yeah. We have a meaty filling of Bad News Michael Brown, John Fenlon, everyone's favourite cheap Asian labour, Mark Abrigo, friend of the show, Alex K, Bungle, who brings his own fucking meaty sandwich to the whole thing,
yes,
and then David at the end. Yeah, so
nice.
The boys are bringing it tonight, folks. They're bringing it.
Any UK voice?
So I don't know if that's limited to wrestling commentators or any kind of sport commentator, because I saw this question for the last show, and I had an answer already lined up, which is, I would love to hear Ali McCoist call a wrestling match for AEW, because he is the most enthusiastic. He's like a big puppy dog when he's commentating on football.
Yeah.
He just has a great time, and I think he would really get into some weird ass AEW match. You know,
is he like the Tony Schiavone of football commentary?
He is, man. I think he can do no wrong. I don't know. I mean, every time I see stuff on Twitter when he's commentating, it's always like, why can't McCoist do every fucking game on TV? You know. Are you in the same boat, or do you lean away from Coisty and his wholesome, that's a great opinion and question there, Clive? You know.
Well, that part of Ali's commentary, yes, because I don't agree with anything that Clive Tildesley has to say. But Ali's general enthusiasm is infectious, man. Like, when you watch a game and he's commentating on it, you're having as much of a good time as he is.
And don't we always say that about Tony Schiavone?
We do. So I think you team those two up, man.
Yeah, yeah.
Could you imagine?
So Ali McCoist on play-by-play, on colour, sorry, and Tony Schiavone on play-by-play.
Yes.
Hell yeah.
That's what we're going with. Yeah. So TK, sign that contract, my friend. Get Ali in for All Out. Could you imagine? Ali out. There we are.
Perfect.
Christ.
I'll tell you what else I'd like.
What's that?
As a UK voice to call a wrestling match, just because I think it would be pretty fun and pretty poetic, and I've heard him do a couple of diss tracks that are just brutal, and that's Stormzy, because I think he would get into it quite heavy. I think he'd be funny, and if you haven't heard the Disappointed and Still Disappointed diss tracks that he did against Wiley, this other UK grime artist, where they were having a beef with each other, and Wiley did a track, and it was alright, and he was kind of making fun of him and talking about his mum and stuff, and then Stormzy came back, and it was like Stormzy ran him over with a car verbally. Just
destroyed him.
It was such a strong response. And then Wiley came back with another one, and then it was Still Disappointed. The first one was called Disappointed, and then after Wiley's second video, Stormzy came back with Still Disappointed, which, my God, he talks about how Wiley's mum had to leave the country because Wiley had got involved in this fucking drug gang war, and their windows were getting shot out and all that, and he's like, you can't fucking look after your mum and all that. He's like, your mum's banged up abroad and all this shit. Just, she's a whore. And the way he does it, it's incredible, folks. Check out on YouTube, Stormzy doing Still Disappointed and Disappointed. Best things ever. So I would put him on there on commentary as well, I have to say.
So
yes.
That is a strong pairing that you've kind of raised the bar there, I think. I'm going to pick one totally out of left field, though.
Go on.
Along a similar line as Ali McCoist, I've heard this dude do commentary before in terms of darts.
Okay.
I would love to hear Stephen Fry commentating on AEW.
Oh, man, you said I raised the bar, motherfucker. You just flew over that pole vault Olympic style,
now,
man. Yes.
You talked about Stormzy being so poetic and it just encapsulating everything that is about what's happening in the ring. I don't think there's any better wordsmith in our country anyway than Stephen Fry. I think Stephen It sounds strange.
I've heard him commentate on snooker and darts, and he's fucking awesome on both.
He's so knowledgeable as well. Like, he doesn't just turn up, like you hear other boys. I mean, Freddie Flintoff's done it before at darts, and he's just sitting there going, darts, right?
They throw things at the wall.
They threw the pointy thing and it hit the board. And
I've never done that.
And Stephen Fry is just so... Stephen Fry,
so eloquent.
Man.
Yeah, man.
I just think he would be tremendous at it, Stephen Fry, and I'm going to have to try and up my game a little bit here with a second choice.
I've got a Scottish guy lined up that I think's going to bring the house down.
In terms of an actual wrestling announcer, though, I think Billy Kirkwood from ICW, it would be interesting to hear him put in that position to call an AEW match. I think Billy's, again, his enthusiasm, his knowledge of wrestling, I don't think there's any way he could detract from the product at all. And
he'd have been pretty good calling the Gage Jericho match.
Yeah, he would be. He gets out of his fucking mind sometimes. But he makes it mean something, though. He's not like that all the time. Like, Billy saves his exuberance, unlike Mauro Ranallo, who is just balls to the wall for the whole show.
Yeah, he's always at 100,
Whereas Billy gets to 100. He's not at 100, he gets to 100.
Mauro idles at like 95.
Yeah, he does, yeah. Yeah, that motherfucker is beyond the speed limit. But yeah,
unbelievable.
That would be my two. So who's this other left field choice Scottish name that you've got?
Well, basically, it's the father of the guy you said. It's Billy Connolly.
Ah!
I'm sure he's Billy Kirkwood's dad.
Could very well be.
Yeah, it should, the comedy.
Could you imagine Billy Connolly doing that, man?
I would love to just hear his reaction to, like...
He's fell on his wee bottom.
Look at him landing, and the way he landed right on his head. Poor Nick Jackson, I would love to see that.
He's landed right on his arse.
And then go into, like, a 5-minute joke about, like, wiping his arse or something, whatever it is that Billy Connolly would do. Yeah, man. We would have some good fucking people for this, David. Good question, dude.
Excellent.
Good question.
Keep them coming, David.
Keep them coming. Yeah, there's one more at the end. Right, Bad News Michael Brown. He says, question. Okay. Question on when WWE's booking got really shit.
2001.
I'd say that it was the Attitude Era was just one long period of hot-shotting where nothing made any fucking sense in the fullness of time.
Yes.
But the story that I think did the most damage was Steph, Triple H, and Kurt Angle affair, which was never paid off, ever, and just dropped. It set the tone. Jericho pitched an idea while being undisputed champ that he got with Steph as heat on Triple H and lead up to Triple H Jericho Mania 18, and that obviously never went the way that was supposed to happen. So, yeah, when do you think WWE's booking got really shit?
It wasn't too far away from that, Sam. I think 2001, they get all the talent in from WCW once Vince has brought the company. They've got all this talent. They don't know what to do with it. They throw them together in a mishmash of just fuckery and don't use that time to build any of those stars that could have provided like a new impetus and freshness about the product, especially at a time when, Austin was kind of winding down, Rock was going away, they needed other people. It became all about Triple H, which, that's just the way it is. And instead of, putting someone like a Rob Van Dam or even a Booker T in that kind of scenario, they went and brought, and I love Shawn Michaels, don't get me wrong, but they chose to bring back Shawn after 4.5 years rather than use Triple H to get those other dudes in a position where he could make money with them instead of off them. So Michael's not too far away, but I would say just a little bit earlier than that, maybe 2001. What about you?
I think it's pretty crazy that I don't think people realize like the business drop off after 2001. Because people talk about like the kind of like there's been a steady decline over the last however many years, but there was a real drop off. The Austin heel turn, in hindsight, obviously is the main turn off for a lot of people and stuff. But Rock leaving as well, like you said, and just that period of times where it starts to creak, but it's always a thing where you don't really notice it until a couple of years later. WCW had the same thing where they were riding high as fucking 98 and they're gone in 01. They don't see the iceberg coming because they're making all the money and everything's going fine and stuff. And WWE around that time, ratings start really tanking. Live attendances start going down. People aren't into the Austin heel turn and all that kind of stuff. And I think after that, Vince is panicking a bit.
Yeah.
But I think when things really go wrong is when Stephanie McMahon's put in charge of creative and brings in the writing team, and then from there, I mean, it wasn't perfect, but Vince at the fucking mansion with JR and Cornette and whoever, and J.J. Dillon and whoever the fuck it is, the wrestling-minded guys around him, 3 or 4 of them, putting it all together, getting their input, Vince making the final decision. It wasn't perfect, but it made a fuck ton of money, and there's a lot of cool stuff going on. And then post that kind of thing, of this weird thing that they're in now, and you've seen the results of that system for however many years they've had it, and they are where they are. Somehow they're worth a shit lot more than they were before, but that's just down to
name value,
brand name, and Vince, and being able to, employ people that can negotiate crazy good TV contracts, because that is where all the fucking money comes from these days. So that's where I think it went off the rails a bit, and it's never really come back, to be honest.
No, it hasn't, and you're kind of spot on there. I mean, there's a direct correlation between the lack of wrestling minds in a creative sense and how much the ratings of and not just ratings, popularity. That's the best way to put it. It's not ratings, because you'll get the Vincells going, oh, but television's not important anymore. That's not the only source of revenue. Go and fuck yourself, right? If television's...
read a fucking financial report, dummies.
If television's not an important source of revenue, why are they getting paid $250 million a year?
Yeah, exactly. For 5 years.
Bullshit.
Yeah. With escalating contracts as well, folks. Like, it doesn't stay at the same level, it increases every year. Yeah. So that's why, when they're losing money in other places, that's why they have to say they cut talent costs to make sure that profit margin stays fat as fuck. That's what it's all about. Anyway, so these next 2 questions, George, are kind of sort of, they're different styles of questions. They're going to make us think in a different way, okay? So the first one is from friend of the show, John Fenlon. John says, has AEW delivered on their promises, not just in terms of quality wrestling, but in the ethics they touted at their formation, treatment of employees, diversity and representation? How did they handle the global pandemic and the speaking out movement? And I don't mean in comparison to WWE, because that's like calling Joe Biden a good president because Trump. So, just in terms of AEW themselves, have they delivered on their promises? Quality wrestling-wise, I would say.
Oh, without a shadow of a doubt. Without a shadow of a doubt.
Creatively, tag team division, that was what they touted at the beginning, wasn't it? It was going to be the main focus, and that's always tremendous. And they've got, I don't think there's ever been a stronger tag team division in any company in any time I can remember. It's fucking wild.
I mean, what I would say to John in terms of the wrestling quality is, every time you watch a match in AEW, invariably the people are over, and the match has consequences. Whereas, and I know he said not to directly compare, but if you compare that to the other national television company, wins and losses don't matter a fuck. Whereas in AEW, you get the sense that once, say it's Kaz beats Ethan Page, right? You know that whoever wins out of that match is moving forward, and the other person then has to find their way back to get to point B. Whereas across the road, Keith Lee wins one week, Cross wins the next. Does it matter? No. Are any of them over? No. Should they be? Yes.
What's hilarious as well is that they constantly go on about momentum, and the only way you build momentum in wrestling is with wins, but then they don't ever let anyone build any momentum with wins apart from Roman, it's just crazy.
And they don't
stuff.
matter, my friend.
No. Anyway, less WWE, more AEW.
Yes.
Treatment of employees. I haven't heard anybody making any big moans. I know they got rid of Ivelisse, but that's kind of the story of her career. She's kind of been fired from every company she's been in, and always leaves under a cloud of everyone's mean to me and hates me and doesn't treat me well because, insert reason. So I don't know about that, but I don't know, George, you ever heard anything with them employees? They seem to be pretty, on the outside of it seems pretty positive. Jake Roberts talks very, very positively about the attitudes around there. Who else was it? Oh, Conan as well, when he came in. Was talking about how cool everything is and how happy people are and all that kind of stuff. I haven't heard any issues around treatment of employees. Anything on your end, George?
If you look at it, and I think as long as the workers are creatively satisfied, they don't have any reason to grumble.
Creatively and financially.
From what I've heard, which is minimal and only goes by the Torch or the Observer or whatever comes up on the old timeline. Just look at how they dealt with the Brody Lee situation, and that should tell you everything you need to know, not only about AEW, but about the type of man that Tony Khan is. The proof, again, I say this every week, the proof's in the pudding, and...
Yeah, we're not supposed to compare to WWE, but I'll just say Brian Pillman, Melanie Pillman.
The proof's in the pudding, man. he didn't have to go as far as he did, but you get the feeling that these people, like the workers, the employees, matter, and that came across in the way that that Tony handled the Brody Lee situation.
My favorite thing about that is that they said after Brody Lee died was that -1, or he's now going by Brody Lee Jr. Is the leader of the Dark Order, and when Bray's name came up, everybody was like, blah, 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 and Evil Uno and all that were like, nah, man, Brody Lee Jr. is the leader of the Dark Order. Everybody knows that.
Yeah, just wait 10 years for the payoff, motherfucker.
Yeah, totally. Even the stuff with Hangman and all that, they're still just like, nah, Brody Lee's the wee guy in charge. And I love that kind of thing, that sort of family idea and stuff, and I suppose it's easier because it's a smaller... that way, man. Yeah. It's a smaller company, and it's a whole different thing. Well, in terms of... in
terms of exposure,
Aleister Black was talking about the fact that, you get driven crazy in WWE by frustration of not being able to progress anything that you want to progress, because it sometimes takes you 3 weeks to get an appointment to speak to Vince, And he said in AEW, Tony Khan walks the halls and talks to people, and anytime you want to talk about shit, he's visible. There. Yeah, he's visible, he's there, he's on the ground, he's not like locked away in his thing, he's not this big scary fucking movie villain type dude, He's just a regular fucking wrestling nerd.
Skeletor at Snake Mountain,
Yeah, and this just happens to be like a regular fucking wrestling nerd from the forum days and the tape trading days and stuff, and the shit posting days and whatever, he's from that era, and he's just got a fucking billions of dollars behind him and knows what he wants to do with the company and stuff, but understands that the company's nothing without the people working in the ring. It's nothing without the guys putting the shows together and stuff. So he seems to treat people well. In terms of diversity and representation, I think they're pretty good on that. I think they allow... there's no like... it's Anthony Bowens from The Acclaimed that's gay, isn't it? It's not Max Caster. I think it's Anthony.
I think it's
gay.
Bowens, yeah.
Yeah. So he's obviously out and proud and promoted and stuff. Sonny Kiss, obviously promoted. They don't... Yeah, I don't think in terms of represent... the only thing really is the women's division needs fucking more focus on it, so everyone will shut the fuck up on Twitter. But they do have a point. It does need a bit of, a bit more with it. But other than that, how did they handle global pandemic? Well, they didn't fire a mass load of people, so perfectly, I would say. Speaking Out movement, they sent Jimmy Havoc to rehab and then fired him. So I think he was the only guy that had Speaking Out stuff against him, as far as I know, in AEW. Can't really remember if there was anyone else.
Not off the top.
Justin Roberts not supposed to have been a bit weird with some people.
But that's just Justin Roberts, isn't it? Like, it's just him. He just comes across and looks sleazy, doesn't he? He looks greasy.
I love on Dark, Eddie Kingston's, they like, and now we go down to the dapper yapper of Justin Roberts, and he just goes, and his big orange face.
In that New York accent, it's brilliant, isn't it?
Yeah, totally. It's fucking tremendous. Global pandemic and Speaking Out movement, anything AW-wise on that, George?
For me, in terms of the diversity, first, before we get there, there's work to be done, but it's been a really promising start. The issue is they've had to build the name recognition of the company first, so they couldn't just go in and then have all these stars of different races, genders, identities, and however people want to be, what's the right word, Sam? Not categorized, but you know what I mean. However these workers want to be identified, you can't do that at the start. You have to build the name first, and then with that gives you the time to tell the stories of the individuals. So I think there's work to be done, but it's a really promising start. Again, handled the pandemic pretty flawlessly. I think having Daly's place, obviously,
absolute godsend.
Yeah. So then they could control everything. They can control the, not health and safety, but they can put parameters in place to allow the shows to run smoothly. They also were able to give people work that wouldn't be able to work at that time because everything else was shut down. And what was the other one that John mentioned?
Speaking Out movement.
Yeah, apart from Jimmy Havoc, Sammy Guevara said some pretty gnarly stuff.
He said some weird shit about... Yeah, but they dealt with him, didn't they? Suspended him. He got punished, apologised in public.
I think...
they sort of de-pushed him for a little while, and then they kind of brought him back and stuff. He's like one of the most over baby... But nobody thinks about that now. No. He's one of the most over baby faces in the company, which is like what you can do if you are up front, I suppose, and kind of rehabilitate and explain and apologise, as opposed to
take the heat out of
everyone's attacking me kind of thing.
Yeah,
he owned it. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what he did. The other thing I was going to say as well is Thunder Rosa recently signed with AEW, and Abrigo was talking on the Facebook discussion group about how Russell like modeled and stuff with her, and I saw her on TV and was like, oh, she's a super cool person, and I'm pretty sure she named her kid something crazy. Was it Anakin? It might have been Anakin, maybe. I'll have a look.
Awesome.
But she is also by like her profession is a social worker. So she has been doing a lot of these like community outreach stuff when AEW were touring through different places, and I also see AEW been doing a lot of donations to various charities and stuff, and Fight for the Fallen, they ended up, I think it was $100,000 they donated to like a charity that deals with like helping people recover from sexual abuse and stuff like that. So they're quite, you know, quite forward with all that, quite the forefront of it, you know. And WWE do a shit ton of that as well. So you know, but I think for where they are,
for a company,
what they're doing,
you know, John,
for how long they've been going, you know.
Yeah, just the way to say that, Sam. Like, John, for a company that's only been in existence as a television entity for less than 2 years, I think they've done a remarkable job to be where they are. And you also need to remember that for 18 months of that 2 years, they've not been able to tour. So
yeah, true that. Or have like a full roster at times.
The sky is the limit.
Be able to bring people in. Yeah, so positive. Right. Abrigo, friend of the show, Mark Abrigo. That's a good one. So he says, I'd like to know what your understanding of wrestling psychology is, as it's been tossed around a lot over the last 10 years, and it seems like definitions differ slightly from person to person. What is good ring psychology and bad ring psychology? What is an Austin level pop, and why is George a racist for not agreeing with me about Cena?
Did he say that, or is that an ad-lib from you?
No, that's in his question. I didn't ad-lib that, no. So, wrestling psychology.
Oh, we're dealing with that first and not the racism. Okay.
Yeah, we'll get to racism later. Wrestling psychology. Webster's Dictionary defines wrestling psychology as, I mean, it's basically supposed to be, as far as my understanding of it is at the core of it is using body movement and facial expressions and, you know, selling and, you know, like whatever, to make it appear as if you were in a real fight and a real struggle when you're actually taking part in a planned, choreographed, whatever it might be, even if it's on the fly choreographed or whatever. That is my understanding of wrestling psychology is using your face and your body and your expressions and whatever to convince people that you're in a real struggle, a real fight. At its most base level, that's what I would say it is. What about you, George?
Pretty similar, my friend. My understanding of it would be when there's two people in a match, to gain the advantage over your opponent, you need to work on a specific part of that person's body to render it useless to the point where they can't answer a 3 count or they have to submit. And you do that in a variety of ways. The selling could be, like you said, body language. It could be, you know, the how you appear to deliver the moves as well, the intent that they're delivered with as well. You know, there's no point in having a match where guys just trade the same moves back and forward, because I don't believe that one is more hurt than the other. So for me, it's all about that, you know, whether it's, you know, Flair does it all the time, man. Flair works the leg. He does, it doesn't have to be different moves all the time. You know, we know Flair's going to work the leg. We know Brock's going to focus in on arms and shoulders to lock in the Kimura. Like, it doesn't have to be this whole, you know, one week Rick does the knee, the next week he does the shoulder, the next week they do the neck. No, like, just make me believe that you're hurting that person to the point where they can't beat you. That is my understanding of it. Yeah,
I think in terms of like how the definition of it's changed over the years, is I think a lot of people link it to
they misunderstand.
Storytelling.
Yes,
they they talk about like ring psychology is about telling a story in your match, you know, but at its most base level, it's about making the thing that you're doing make people think that what you're doing, you know, so they react as if it's real. Yes, basically, you know,
like
so
Ricky
they don't
Morton's
go
in
beach
danger.
Balls. You know, Ricky Morton's getting killed here, and women are crying about it because of how he's selling. He is fine. Like, he's nothing wrong with Ricky in real life.
Or Jungle Boy's getting destroyed, but you believe that he is hurt, and you want to help that little bastard.
Yeah, he's crawling across the mat and stuff. Yeah, man, you're right there with him, you know. And that is done by
I'll help you, Jack.
Yeah, we're there, Jack. Both of us. We'd be jumping over the guardrail.
I love you.
It's going to be an issue when AEW come to the UK.
Yeah,
folks.
I can't sit ringside. I'll be getting battered by Jericho, man.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fucking taping you to your chair.
You might need to. Yeah.
But yeah, good ring psychology. And it's weird as well. So anyway, the definition stuff's kind of changed because you can kind of have, at least these days, there's kind of different types of ring psychology you can have. Like, people always talk about the Young Bucks and stuff. I always think they're a really good example because they kind of have a nice psychology, certainly in PWG and Ring of Honor, maybe not so much in AEW, where their matches exist in like another form of psychology. Like, it's a slightly different version of a wrestling match. You know,
Agreed.
It's more video gamey type reactions and stuff like that, and that's what they do, and that's what they've built AEW on the back of, you know, obviously with other styles and performers and all that shit, but
their psychology is built for pops, man. It's not about hurting people, it's about getting the super kick pop or the indie driver or whatever it is. Yeah, you're never sitting there thinking the Young Bucks are going to beat the shit out of people, or they're tough guys or that kind of stuff, but you do think, oh yeah, they can win matches because they do crazy shit, you know, crazy entertaining innovative shit that I've not seen before, because they're relentless and they don't stop. Yeah, so people can kind of assume that that's a different sort of style of psychology in the ring and stuff. Bad's ring psychology is just where you just don't give a fuck about what the guys are doing. You know, you just don't buy into it, and like, you can tell they're going through the motions and stuff. It's all about emotion, man. They have to make you invest and care. Baron have to Corbin. Connect. Exactly, you know. I mean, that's not Baron's fault. He's just not talented at this stuff. It's the way he's been trained, man. That's all it is. Yeah, true. He's been trained to be like a WWE TV performer, not even a wrestling TV performer, but a WWE TV performer, which is, you know, that was one of the things Kenny Omega was talking about. He was on a Wrestle Observer Live, I think, maybe a week ago or however long ago it was, and he was talking about, like, he likes to watch famous matches that people say are classics, but watch them on mute and not have the crowd and the commentary adding what they add to the match, and just see if he can really get into it just by watching what the guys are doing in the ring. You know, how they work, how they sell, if they work a body part, you know, what story they tell in their match. Does it build to the climax that's supposed to? Because that's what it's all about, is like a pop is supposed to be like, you know, you pop off. Yes. You're supposed to hit that one big high. And he's like sort of talking about how, like, some matches that people think are classics are only really carried by the atmosphere in the crowd and whatever. You know, like, you could probably watch Rock Hogan with the audio off and be like, you know, it's what it is, you know. The crowd but with that crowd, you're like, fuck me, this is the greatest thing that's ever been, you know. Whereas if you park Shawn Michaels against The Undertaker from 25 next to that Rock Hogan match, you're going to think entirely differently, because you can tell the story that's being told without being told what the story is. Mm-hmm. So I think that's where the difference lies. Yeah, that's where the great workers come in. Yeah. You know? And it's, in terms of, like, that's my understanding anyway of ring psychology, whether or not I'm right or wrong, whatever. But like Mark says, even in his question, it differs from person to person, and it's like a lot of stuff. There's a lot of terms and a lot of things that are thrown around, especially by younger fans online, because I'm starting to work out everybody's just young as fuck. Like, they're not all dumb, they're just young, and that's why they come across as dumb. Young, dumb, and full of cum. If who am I picking? Which sex pervert wrestler am I picking? Jordan Devlin. Joey Ryan, everybody. We're going Joey Ryan. David Starr. Yeah, there's so many to choose from. I totally forgot what I was talking about. Oh, yeah, the terms and things that are thrown around. So, like, buried, you know? He lost the match. He's been buried. They buried Hangman Page. What are you talking about? We'll get to it. Did you watch and tell the story? You know? Like, yeah, I know. Come on. Did you hear the pop and then the you'll get there? Yeah. Anyway, right. So what is an Austin level pop, and why is George racist for not agreeing with me about Cena? An Austin level pop is any crowd pop that makes the hard camera shake. Yes. Because the arena is shaking. Yes. That's what I would call an Austin level pop. Like a Road Warrior pop, they used to call it. Those are the only two. I mean, Hogan got pops as well. Don't get me wrong, but if you watch Hogan stuff, you know they're there, but it's not. I mean, it's usually prolonged, but Austin coming out to get Help Foley win the title, you know, Austin coming out WrestleMania 17, when you can feel as if that building is shaking, because those people are so, again, emotionally invested. They care about who's coming out they have a relationship with that individual because they are engaged in that character and what that character is setting out to achieve. That is an Austin level pop. Austin, I find it really difficult to speak about him because he's just in his own league as far as pops are concerned. Like, we've spoken about it in all the retro shows that we've done where Austin's a factor, and it's not fair on anybody else because the pops are good, right? But then he comes out and it just dwarfs everything. And
I tell you what, I mean, I'm trying to think, like rock pops and stuff. There's some big ones, you know. There's the Triple H return at Madison Square Garden one. That was pretty fucking intense, but that was also because of relentless campaign by WWE to hype that, like when he came back. Like, that is the most hyped return I've ever seen for anyone. It's gotta fucking shake the ground, dude. You know,
you got to feel the earth move, and for me, John just doesn't make the earth move, and it doesn't make me racist because I don't agree with you. It just means that. No, I'm going to get into trouble. Mark,
it means he's better than you, Mark, is what it means. He's better than you.
I'm a better Mark than you, Mark. I will have this discussion with you in person, my friend, so save that and I will answer your question directly the next time I speak to you.
Ooh, it's not a threat, everyone, by the way, hopefully.
It's a promise.
Is that a threat? It's a promise.
I'm from Dundee, motherfucker.
You're getting fucking stabbed, buddy. You're getting stabbed with a torn in half can of super lager.
Yeah.
Right in the neck, Dundee style. Alex K, friend of the show Alex K comes in. I got a couple for you. Favorite SummerSlam match or moment? Davey Boy Smith, 1992, obviously. SummerSlam 2002, the whole show. I fucking love that show.
We couldn't get away with watching that again, could we?
No, we've already retro reviewed that. I've got one in mind.
Right.
I'm thinking Mania 97, SummerSlam 97.
Okay.
Bret Hart and Undertaker.
For me, I mean, the easy choice to pick, like from a biased British point of view, is SummerSlam 92. But for me, you want to talk all-time SummerSlam moments. I think it's either how Brock fucked up The Rock and how the crowd turned in that match with no prompting whatsoever.
Yeah.
Or just the raw, pure emotion and the love that crowd showed for Shawn Michaels against Triple H. For me,
that show is fucking so tight. It's so good.
I mean, we're sitting talking about it now, Sam, and you know it's good when you're just talking about it and it gives you goosebumps. Like,
man.
That, I never thought I would see Shawn again, much less performing at that level, much less winning the match, much less coming back for 8 years. Like,
yeah, but the finish with the hammer as well. And Jim Ross, you no good son of a bitch, no. Oh no!
Yeah.
Like, everything about that is pitch perfect, man. And that show opens with Kurt Angle against fucking Rey Mysterio, in Rey's first WWE match.
Wow.
It's just so badass. Any other favourite SummerSlam matches or moments? When I was a kid, I always liked the Miss Elizabeth pulled her skirt off to reveal a slightly smaller skirt, and everyone gets a boner. I'm pretty sure that was SummerSlam. I think it was 88, maybe.
I think...
Yeah.
Which one is it where you could see Warrior getting his in the ring? Was it 91? That's quite funny, that main event.
Yeah.
Where he's held up Vince for, what was it, $300,000 or something?
Yeah, it was 92, I think, that one, yeah.
Yeah, something like that.
That was tremendous.
That's funny, for various reasons. What else? Alex, it should tell you everything you need to know about your question that nothing in the last 20 years has cropped up in this list.
Last 30 years for me, yeah. Like, hang on a minute. Let me think, more recent times. Come on, Duckman, recent times. When did... No, you've already said that, haven't you? When Brock fucked up Cena. Did he fuck up Randy Orton at SummerSlam as well?
I think so.
When he did that shoot punch on his head.
Yeah,
that's pretty fucking crazy.
Brock beating Cena in quite short order was also really funny.
Yeah, because that was the beating that was set aside for Daniel Bryan.
Yes,
that was going to be Daniel Bryan's time to drop the title. Yeah. Fuck you guys. Right, let's pretend for a second. This is Alex's second question. Let's pretend for a second that AEW are just enough of a prick to not actually have Punk show up in Chicago. Oh my god! Like, yeah, Chicago will burn like that famous fire they had again. He says, "Who do you think shows up instead? My money is on actual Michael Jordan, and we get Jordan versus Shaq at All Out." I mean, for the Chicago market, that's probably the biggest match you can do without Punk. Oh god, imagine if they don't. Imagine if it's like a swerve. It'd be so funny. Who do you think they can show up instead, George? Nobody. It's Punk. Everyone knows it's Punk. It has to be Punk. Otherwise, they're fucked.
I'm trying to think of anybody else that it could possibly bring out.
I'm trying to think of like famous people from Chicago, and the only people I know is like Bill Murray and
in a wrestling sense, and this wouldn't really be a prick move either. It just wouldn't be Punk. What if they bring out Okada to challenge Kenny for the AEW title?
AEW title. It's got to be something at that level. It's got to be like Bryan Danielson, because technically Bryan Danielson was the best in the world before CM Punk. Bryan Danielson in Ring of Honor, his gimmick was the best in the world. I'm the best in the world. And he used to yell it all the time, and then Punk stole it in WWE and is now known for it. So if Bryan Danielson came back in, and Final Countdown hit, and then we had that, then, that makes up for it. But other than, Jesus coming back, I don't know.
Adam Cole?
Adam Cole, baby. Yeah, someone's asked about him in a second, so we'll get to that.
Yeah, something along those lines, Alex. Yeah, that's not really a prick answer, but I think
Chicago. Whoever invented the deep dish pizza. There you go. He comes out. He'll be over.
Baron Corbin. What a swerve that would be, man.
King COVID. Oh my god. Right, friend of the show, Bungle. This is a long one, folks. It's got like 1, 2, 3, 4 points to it, so we'll power through. Right?
Nice length.
Yes, the Hangman Page saga. So many people have been complaining about last week. Do you think it was time to pull the trigger and they are now likely to capture that level of over, or do you think people are just too used to quick build and hot-shotting? Okay, so first off, what do you think about the Hangman Page Elite Dark Order match and finish last week, George?
I thought the match was excellent. John Silver kills me for a dude that had been out for, 3-4 months. To come back and work like that in his first
Johnny
match.
Hungy.
What a fucking... He just makes me laugh every time I see him, man.
He's great.
He
so charismatic.
He makes me love whatever he does. So anything that John Silver's involved in, to me, you can't really lose. And Bungle, in response to your other question about is it
time to pull the trigger? Yeah.
No, I don't think so. I don't think the heat's quite there yet. I said this maybe 6-8 weeks ago. I think it's too quick to be going straight to Hangman against Kenny Omega. If anyone who's upset by the finish even watched the match and was upset by it, then you need to hand back your wrestling card, because you clearly don't understand what building a story is.
You want to see ring psychology in that match. Like, Hangman Page is a hero, and he is going down fighting. He's a brave-ass cowboy going 3-on-1 with, the 3 baddest dudes in the place, the world champ and the tag champs, or whatever the fuck it was,
And the fact that, not to qualify it for Bungle, obviously, or anyone listening to the show, but the fact that as wrestling fans, not AEW fans, WWE fans, New Japan fans, the fact as wrestling fans that we have to explain what that story they're telling is, is a shambles, mate. It really is.
It's a shame. But like I say, there's a lot of kids watching. That's all it is. There's a lot of dumb kids that don't know what the fuck's
going
on.
Fuck the kids.
But fuck the kids, yeah.
Don't cut that.
That's what. Yeah, don't isolate that.
Don't isolate that and use it as a fucking ringtone, please. Abrigo, I'm looking at you.
I don't think it was time to pull the trigger. I'd like them to pull the trigger because I want Hangman Page to be world champion, but I am happy to hang on, watch where this goes, see how they get Hangman back into contention and back into the picture, see what Kenny does in the meantime.
Yeah, they're not at the stage yet where the heat's there for Adam to take the title. They're not there yet. Kenny's not as obnoxious, or he's not at the right level of arrogance and just total overconfidence where you need Page to be the one that just shuts his mouth and shuts him up finally. Yeah. You have to tell the story.
It's got to happen. I mean, if you think the high that you hit while watching that match and how close you came, it's the equivalent of like, I don't know, your national team loses the Euros on a penalty shootout, and then in the World Cup you win it. You get that build back and you come back again, and you do. And Hangman is they've produced and presented him as such a great babyface. Like, he's so over as a good guy. He's just ready to go. People sympathize with him. They think he's a tough guy. They know he's there, but he's just got that last fucking step, that last stage to take. And when Kenny's red hot and it's ready for him to drop, and Hangman is red hot and ready to take that, like George says, because it's got to be, you got to kind of level up, when you pass a title that's as protected as the AEW world title. Each person has to be kind of more over than the next guy and stuff. So Hangman's got time to get there, and he will definitely get there. In terms of why people reacted the way they did, it's because all they've ever watched is WWE, and they just don't know what the fuck's going on.
Punk, just talking about that there, Sam. Sorry to cut you off, but talking about that there, I was actually welling up at the thought of Hangman winning the title.
Dude, we were jumping about in there, me and Martin, watching that.
And
loving it.
Like I say, when we get that moment, it will be so much worth it. It really will be. But it's not Adam's time yet.
It's going to be sweet. CM Punk, kind of related to the above question, so many people rapidly wanting him to be AEW champion within 2 weeks of debuting. Would you say this is a good idea? Nope. Hopefully to get more viewers and awareness on the product. Now you don't need to sacrifice your title for that. People are going to watch Punk. They're going to watch him anyway. Don't sacrifice Kenny. You don't do any of that.
No.
Is it about... you could have CM Punk against Kenny Omega at All Out, but CM Punk loses that match if you're going to go that way, but I don't think they are. I think Darby Allin might be getting a shot against Kenny Omega. I think they might do Darby and Kenny. Yeah, maybe. Because they kind of... Because the other one is Christian, and they've been talking about on TV, and I'm not really into that. But is it a bad idea? Will it undo a significant amount of work building up new stars? Yeah, well, it would definitely undo the ranking system and Kenny Omega. So, yeah, don't do that. It's safe to say, yeah, don't do that. G1, given the amount of released WWE talent now flouncing through the forbidden door, who do you reckon will sneak in as a surprise in the G1 this year? The only person I thought of was Buddy Murphy in the G1 in New Japan. I reckon he could do some good shit there. Other than that...
Is it bad that I've forgotten most of the people that have been released?
No. I mean, there's been a lot, George. There's been a lot to keep up with.
Buddy Murphy's probably a good shout. Who else has been released, Sam? Tell me.
Braun?
Nah.
Bray?
Nah.
Nope. No Way Jose?
Nah.
No way. He's an Impact. Like I say, Buddy Murphy.
I don't know if Killian Dane was a big enough star to have that kind of impact.
G1 would kill him as well, because it's not really a big man tournament, to be honest, because it's so much wrestling over a long period of time. I would like to have seen Aleister Black, Malachi Black, going into
Possibly.
G1. That would be pretty cool. Because Mox went. Mox was really good. But yeah, he asked a question about Bray, basically, but given he's probably high on Tony Khan's Human Funko Pop collection list, what do you think about supernatural gimmicks in wrestling in 2021? Is there still a place for them to be done well, or is it time to be buried with Taker? What do you think on supernatural gimmicks, George, in this day and age?
Considering that it hasn't been done well, I don't know if that's a reflection on the talent that were involved, or on the creative quote-unquote mind behind those stories. As long as it's not hokey and smoke and mirrors, like, if you can make it as believable as possible, then I think, there's definitely room for it. And it depends on what side of the supernatural realm you're going to as well. Like, you cannot possibly do an Undertaker. Like, that is a miracle that worked in the first place.
Yeah, when you think about it, it really is.
It's a miracle, right?
Yeah.
But if you want to talk about someone who's got dark powers, who could manipulate people in other ways, like Malachi Black, like a Bray Wyatt, there is scope for it to be done. You just need to pick the right talent and tell the right story. But I'm not sure if right now that's a good idea to do it because there's just been too many attempts at it and it hasn't worked out. So it's something they should probably leave well alone for a considerable period of time.
It just always comes across as super cringy and like amateur
because it's not been done right
type stuff because it's just not done right, not produced right and stuff. The only one I can think of recently that seems to kind of work a little bit, or at least there's like a niche kind of thing, is Abaddon. You know that chick in AEW that has the blood and stuff coming out and she crawls around and acts like a zombie?
Yeah.
Like, her act is pretty... you know, she's not all like levitating and teleporting and shooting lightning or whatever, you know, supernatural stuff, but she's got that kind of horror movie type thing going on, which I could see being quite popular, you know, the kind of zombie shit. But other than that, I mean, I don't know. All those gimmicks feel kind of for kids, you know, like... And they kind of play that way a little, especially in WWE, like all the Alexa stuff, even the Fiend stuff kind of started a bit unnerving and a bit scary and badass almost, and then the longer it went, the lamer it got, you know. So yeah, I don't know. I think there's a place from, like George says, it's just got to be done well, you know. DMD baby, what's your take on Adam Cole's contract situation? He hustling for more money, or is he going to join his missus in AEW? So yeah, that was the big fucking story, folks, if you haven't seen that this week. Adam Cole's contract actually expired a while back, and he signed an extension until SummerSlam, and then he's a free agent. So yeah, everybody was kind of freaking out, being like, how the fuck is that happened? How have they not got him signed up to a new contract? Which makes me think maybe he doesn't want to hang around, or, as Bungle says, is he hustling for more money? Baby. What do you think, George? What's your take on Adam Cole?
This has happened before, hasn't it? Like, this year, I mean, who was the other dude whose contract ran out and they forgot about it? Who was that?
Joe. Was it? No, they fired Samoa Joe.
They fired Joe.
I remember they let it happen with The Rock. When The Rock
that's
was
normal behaviour, isn't it?
Yeah, they were like, due to an administrative error, we let The Rock's contract expire, and everyone was like, guh. No, I'm drawing a blank. Who else did this?
I'm just trying to think. I know it's happened recently. Now, whether it's this year or in the last 18 months, but it's definitely happened. It is astounding that someone who is basically the linchpin of NXT has been allowed to get into that situation. How do they not know when their most valuable player in that brand's contract is up? It's it's incompetence of the highest order.
It's either that or they just can't convince him to sign a new one, you know?
He seems like the type of dude, man, who will do the right thing for the business rather than the company. So he's in the middle of telling this really long, intricate, well played out story with Kyle O'Reilly, right? And the fact that his contract's running out at SummerSlam makes me believe he's going to do the favours regardless, right? It's just the way the story's been told. Kyle gets nothing from it if he comes up short again, right? I think Cole goes where he's going to be happiest, and if he feels like he can be creatively satisfied in that company, fair play to him. But I think there's more interesting options out there, especially with Danielson coming into AEW, with Punk coming into AEW, and who else is already there in AEW for Cole to work. Yeah. He's not touched those dudes for, 5 years, something like that.
And it's his best friends in the industry. It's the guys that got over big, being part of the Elite and being on BTE and all that sort of stuff. Yep. So he's got all that going for him. And his wife's there. His missus is there. I think she's his wife, or at least his girlfriend. Britt Baker. So... I mean, yeah, you don't know what kind of money they'll back up onto his driveway, try and convince him to stay, because I think losing Cole the same way of, you know, straight away they pick up Andrade, Aleister Black, Punk, Danielson. If they get Cole, if they get Bray Wyatt, if you look at the rest of the roster that was there already, you know, holy fucking shit, that is like all the cool, you know, hip, over... you know, exciting, interesting, you know, it's all different. They got creative freedom. They're all working with new people. They're wrestling in front of new fans, all that sort of shit. Why the fuck would you stay in that fucking warehouse working out like you're training to be a wrestler and doing NXT, you know? Why would Adam Cole stay?
It's disrespectful, man. And the fact is they're doing that takeover from that fucking cupboard again.
Oh yeah, that fucking CWC or whatever the fuck.
Why?
What the hell's going on? They need to get back on the road again and get out there. I know they're doing the
even Full Sail, man.
Yeah, I'd take that. I would take the fucking Impact Zone in Orlando with a tourist crowd at the moment.
Because you look at Dynamite, right? You're supposed to compare the two products, right? You look at Dynamite, and that looks like a wrestling show.
Mm-hmm.
NXT doesn't.
Yeah.
No matter how talented the dudes are. Like, we're talking like Adam Cole, Johnny Gargano, Bobby Fish, Kyle O'Reilly, Karrion Kross, Samoa Joe's back and kicking ass, which is fucking amazing, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it looks like they're wrestling in a fucking cupboard. And
it's so weird.
Those dudes deserve so much more than that. And do you know what, man? That might actually end up being, the final choice for Adam Cole, mightn't it? Like, do I want to work in front of these fucking trainees for the next 5 years? Nah, I'll go and work in front of 15,000 in Chicago. That's fine.
Because if he's going to the main roster, within fucking 3 months, he's chasing the 24/7 title around the building with a bunch of guys. If he goes to the main roster, which is not anything on Adam Cole, it's just what Vince would do with him because he's too short.
Yep.
I think he leaves. I think he's going to AEW. Yep. I really do. I think that's what's going to happen. Anyway, last question for the mailbag this week, folks. From friend of the show, David Valdez, who got us off on a great start and maintains his sort of theme of UK-based questions, George.
Nice.
If AEW or non-WWE or any non-WWE goes to UK, how far would you go to see the show, and which city would you love to go to and see host outside your home sort of cities and stuff? So how far would you travel to go and see an AEW show?
Well,
George?
Sam, let's be clear about this right from the very start. David, AEW or any other wrestling company are not going to come to Dundee. They are not going to come to the
middle of fucking nowhere.
yeah, somewhere in I was waiting to nearly say where you were from there, Sam. I just bit my tongue.
Don't let them know.
No, I won't.
Don't let them know. It's too specific.
I won't.
It's such a small place.
And it's such an unusual name as well. I'll just knock that on the head. Do you know what? I would go as far as I needed to, man. Like, I would go from Dundee to Penzance, which is like 12 hours on a train. Like, I don't care where it is. I will be going to that show.
Yeah, we've already said it on the show and off the show and, whatever. It's like, we're definitely there. Going to move heaven and earth to get tickets for wherever they go. I would hope they would do the Hydro. They would sell that out easily. I would hope if they didn't do Glasgow, I would go Manchester. I'm just thinking of the cities that they would run. Manchester, Birmingham,
Cardiff.
Liverpool. Yeah, no problem at all. Cardiff, no problem at all. London, maybe a bit of a push, but if that's the only place, maybe, but if anywhere further north, big cities I would travel to. But yeah, it's pretty much, if it came to, I would definitely go wherever I had to go because got to see that live show. Which city would you love to go to and see outside of the home? So I would love to go and see AEW in Amsterdam. That'd be fucking sweet. In the Amsterdam Arena. And then just come back into the city on the tram and get fucking wrecked. Take mushrooms and all kinds of shit.
To the tits.
Have a good time. Yeah, that would be me. Or, obviously, George, the big ones are like, New York? Any other ones? Chicago's a pretty good town for going to watch wrestling.
Yeah, I've heard that. Toronto?
Tickets, yeah. Toronto, yeah. I tell you what, man, Budokan Hall in Tokyo, I would love to go to.
There's a shout.
To go to Budokan. Yeah. Love to go to Tokyo. That would be great.
Just trying to think if there's any totally left field choices.
Arbroath?
That's pretty left field, man. Glen Rothes.
Get yourself a smoky.
AEW.
I'm going to have a smoky in a minute, everyone.
AEW Glen Rothes, no.
Oh, yeah, that's Jura's hometown. That'd be fucking quality.
Yeah.
You're all getting stabbed, eh?
If you want it to be somewhere picturesque and outdoors, you're not struggling for places. It's just cities that are close to them, man. They could have so many. Wembley would be. What a fucking show, man. You've seen what the boxing looks like at Wembley, and could you imagine a wrestling show in that stadium?
Yeah, because you can get some big ass pyro in for that show. Yeah, that would be pretty sweet, a Wembley show. Yeah, the Anthony Joshua fights always look tremendous there. But yeah, I think in terms of just traveling to a different city and going to see, in the UK, I think my favourite city to visit was Manchester. To travel to go and see shows and stuff. I really like Manchester. Went down there quite a few times, WWE show, Oasis gig, a few other things. Birmingham was rough as fuck.
Yeah,
that was really tough. That's
an acquired taste.
2000, I think it was, year 2000. Maybe we were down there for a festival. And yeah, I'm sure I've told this story loads of times. We're walking by Birmingham bus station, and like there was a fucking guy walked past me and my brother and held his hand out, and he had a hand grenade in his hand, like. And he just looked at us and carried on walking, and we were both like, what the fuck? And then we got to a corner shop to buy some cigarettes, and when we came out, this old woman was talking to my flatmate about how she didn't mean to push her husband down the stairs, it was an accident, and blah blah blah, just like out of the blue, just this complete mental case. And then when we got back into the bus station, this guy was like, I'm sure he had a body in this bag, like this big duffel bag that he was trying to push into a locker, and he was trying to get into fights with everybody, and he was like, been to visit, he was like, something about my mum, been to visit me mum, and all that, and I like whispered to Martin, I was like, I reckon his mum's in that bag, like, he's stuffing her in this fucking locker at the bus station, he's going to do a runner, because he stank, like it was fucking stinking, and it was just so rough. And then the bus pulled in, because Birmingham bus station is not like a bus station at that point in time. It was like a garage. You were inside a garage. It was like something in the 1970s. And like yellow plastic chairs and shit. Like there was a wimpy in there. You know what I mean? It's like, where are we? Is this am I in Doctor Who? Is this a fucking a time loop? But when that bus pulled up, man, and that dude opened the door, and he was like, you going to Glasgow? And I was like, oh, I've never been so happy to hear a Scottish accent in my life. Get me the fuck home. Get me out of here. Oh, damn, man, that was the worst. The worst trip ever.
That was terrifying, man.
What a town. But yeah, I don't know, man. I think that covers it. What do you think, George?
Yeah, I think we've done pretty well. Do you know what? Good selection of questions this time. As always,
oh, yeah.
David is raising the bar with these, so keep them coming in. And everybody else, email mfx.show@gmail.com, send questions our way, and we will get to them eventually.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Good mailbag, folks. Anyway, I think that'll do, George, for episode 34. I think we should wrap this bitch up, let these good folks go home before I keel over onto the floor in a edible-induced fit. It's really weird. It's like my brother was saying when he was here. It comes in waves, man.
Yeah.
It comes in waves. You just be sitting there and you're like, what was all that about? And then you're like, oh, that's what that's all about. I'm brain surfing. Yay! It's always fun. Anyway, this has been episode 34 of the Scottish Announce Table podcast. As we always say, don't forget you can follow us on Twitter at MFXPodcast. I'm at MFXDuckman. George is at GTA Peel. George the Animal Peel. Get involved in all the discussion on the Facebook discussion group. That's where you can leave like topics and questions. I don't know if I should just like open a thread on there that people and pin it, and then people can just add to it. And then we can just pull the questions as we come to them on the show. Maybe, I don't know. I'm having an admin thought on the show here, folks.
Yes.
I might do that. But anyway, Facebook discussion group, get involved with all the chat there. As we said, don't forget, patreon.com/MFXpodcast. New shit is coming. We're going to be doing these short runs of 8 to 10, 5 to 10, whatever it is, episodes of classic wrestling shows like Saturday Night's Main Event, like Clash of Champions. Maybe look at the Invasion angle and shows built around that. Maybe review the pay-per-view that, built to, that could have been the biggest pay-per-view of all time. But, Vince,
Reasons.
Reasons, everybody. There's all kinds of cool shit going to be coming there. So patreon.com/MFXpodcast. You can donate from as little as $1 per month. Help with the running costs of the show. Get some extra free content. All that good shit. Help the ship of MFX, Scottish Announce Table, 3PB. Keep that ship running. And yeah, mfx.show@gmail.com for all your questions and praise and whatever. Various other bits and pieces, and yeah, I think that'll do, folks. So George, episode 34, have you had fun on the show tonight, buddy?
Always have fun on the show, Sam. It's not as roasting as it was last week, and
true that.
Do you know what? The only thing missing was the retro show, wasn't it? Like, I feel bad that we haven't seen any Bobby Heenan.
I know, fucking Mark's unknown. That's the last time I asked him to do anything.
That's the last time I ask anyone, actually, to be honest. I asked the Galaxy, like I said earlier on.
You got screwed.
And I got screwed. I asked Marks, and I got screwed. You fuckers are getting asked nothing ever again.
We're keeping this in-house, George. We're keeping this in-house. Yeah. The next show will be back in a couple of weeks. We're going to have Retro Review back. It will be a SummerSlam, I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure I've got the one in mind. Pretty sure it'll be 97.
SummerSlam.
But we'll have a look back and
Takeover and the Retro Show, man.
Shit, it's going to be busy, folks. It's going to be busy.
Bring the length.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes, folks. But yeah, anyway, that will do for episode 34 of the Scottish Announce Table podcast, an MF Extra show on the BS Podcast Network. As we always say, folks, thanks for listening. Hope you've enjoyed the show. Get in touch through all the usual channels. Share the shit out of the show when it goes up. Yeah, help spread the word of the Scottish Announce Table. But yeah, that'll do for another week. I've been Duckman. He's been George the Animal Peel, and we will catch you guys next time.
Shine the I was